I have no regrets of shots that I've taken. Nothing is on my conscience that haunts me or anything. I have nothing on it whatsoever. But and I've said this many times, there are shots that I did not take where I watched with my eyes innocent children die because I didn't take out a bad guy. That doesn't sit well with me. Fighting in general, war, combat, has been around forever. There is good and there is evil, and if you don't try to suppress evil, that evil is going to consume.
What was the darkest moment in your career, and what was the thing that got you through?
I remember having suicidal thoughts of like, I'm gonna go get my gun and just be done with it. And I remember standing in the middle of my gym. I remember crying out to God. I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I don't want to have a thought of putting another gun into my face. I don't want this thought. And like just, the weirdest thing is like this peace came over me.
Welcome back to Mulligan Brothers Interviews. And today we sit down with Eddie Penney, SEAL Team 6 operator, who gives us a true insight of what it takes to get into SEAL Team 6 and much, much more. He talks about all his experiences from the low moments to the high moments and all the lessons he's learned in between. Today's episode is powered by LMNT. I'll talk about these guys a little bit later on in the video, but find out more with the link in the description. Let's dive into the episode.
Just introduce yourself for people who don't know who you are and just a little bit about what you do.
Gotcha. My name is Eddie Penney and I served 20 years in the military. I did 4 years in the Marine Corps. And then I switched over to the Navy and became a Navy SEAL and retired out of there in 2016. So within that, did the whole deployment thing. Iraq and Afghanistan was going off at the time. So did multiple deployments to combat zones, which was awesome, but it leaves something with you, which I don't think any of us knew at the time. And trying to process that stuff after has been is the name of the game right now. So got out, started a company, Contingent Group, which we do corporate high-end security, low profile for our clients. And then started moving into Unafraid, which is, and we still do the security, but move into Unafraid, where we do like our clothing line and kind of our mindset speaking, but all arrows go to Jesus.
It's absolutely incredible work. And I think some of the audience might have seen the Sean Ryan. Some of the audience might have picked up the book. I'd like to think some of them might have seen your social media. If they haven't read the book, this is, a lot of the research that we've done for this has been for the book. And there's this incredible concept that you've got in there called a hotwash. That's a terminology that's used, I think, is it in the military or in teams?
Correct, yeah, the military.
Just to premise that, what is the terminology hotwash? What does it mean if you were just talking in a military sense?
So another term for hotwash could be like debrief, critique, is going back, what happened, the highs and the low. For us in particular would be a mission. It could be on a parent. How did we handle our situation with our children? Let's get together and talk about what could we have done better or what do we need to do next time? And we can see it in business as well. It's like, okay, how did we handle this? What X, Y, and Z? Okay, what do we need to do better? Pointing out the bad stuff and the good, so we know what we need to strengthen and bring up that is super weak. So a hot wash is just a debrief of what went wrong. And we did it after every operation. We would all, after we put our gear down, put the guns away, all that stuff, we'd get together and we would talk about what happened, and we would do it when it's fresh. We wouldn't wait until tomorrow. We would knock it out right then when everyone's mind is firing on all cylinders and we can hash it out. And if we need to train a specific thing, just like a football team would train, hey, like we need to get better at our rushing game or whatever it may be, or soccer, right? There's like different, we could do whatever. They would say we need to strengthen this side over here, over this, or whatever it is. Same thing. No difference. Just a cooler name.
It is a cool name. And every chapter ends with a hot wash, which works really well in terms of like embedding the lesson there.
But the hot wash, that started out, and I think I mentioned this on other podcasts, but I wanted to write a letter. I wanted to be a letter to my children. I didn't want them to make the same mistakes I did. It's always like, man, that was really stupid. I shouldn't have done that. It's always like in hindsight. So that's what it was, what it started out with, was I wanted to write to them. And then my good friend and co-author, Keith Wood, is like, hey, let's do it for everyone and we'll call it a hot wash. And And that's what we did. But originally started out, I wanted to tell my children, hey, I messed up. This is a better way to go. And now we made it for the whole audience, which works out perfectly.
That, hey, I messed up, this is the best way to go. I think that's what I want to make sure that we're capturing, because, you know, even just a few hours we've spoken to today, there's tons of moments where you've said that. So we'll see what we can get into this interview, but we've got we're spending the next 2 days with each other. There's going to be, I'm sure, tons of conversations. So if people want to pick up on that, you'll be able to find it around on the Mulligan channels, on social media, all that kind of stuff.
Dude, we're good with all of it, yeah, man.
So there's some cool stuff coming up, but we always start with this because we have like a very, very strong American audience, but we also have our next subset is British audience, as you might expect.
I think so.
And I always ask, especially when we're interviewing American guests, where did you grow up? What was your childhood like? And how would you describe it to a foreign or British audience?
Gotcha. So I grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio, which if you're looking at the map of the United States, it's where the Great Lakes are. It's right below that. We have Lake Erie that does our northern border, and it's right there. It's kind of like the heart of the United States, where a heart would be on a country. So grew up there. I did all the sports minus hockey. So did baseball and football were the big ones. And then when I got into high school, I was going to do football again, but everyone was so much bigger than I was. So I went to my dad. I was like, hey, I can't do this. Like they're ginormous. They weren't ginormous. You're 6'7", you're ginormous. They weren't ginormous, but to me, my little eyes, they were definitely big. So I just didn't do it. And I didn't have a plan of what I was going to do. So I think I tried wrestling. I went to a practice. Got my butt whooped. And then I think that weekend I went and played basketball with my friends and I broke my ankle. So I had to be done with wrestling. So that healed. The next sports or because you have your seasons, was swimming for high school. So I did it. A buddy's like, hey, you want to try swimming? I was like, I'm not putting on that Speedo, but we did it. And I remember swimming from one side of the pool, which was 25 yards, to the other. And I was like, dude, I'm done. That's tough. And I thought I could swim well. I just fell in love with it. It was the training and the exhaustion and the put out you had to give was what was like. I didn't know that I longed for that, but it was awesome. It was great to do it. So I swam, which benefited me highly, obviously, going into the SEAL program. I was very comfortable in the water.
And that's something that I thought was interesting. And I don't want to skip too many pieces here, but you speak about role models, and especially like for young men, and you had the swimming coach, Coach Murphy, and what was the lesson that you picked up the most from him? Because he seemed to have had a massive impact on you and was one of the only reasons you swam at the time.
Yeah, so Coach Murphy was my baseball coach.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good, dude. But he was a huge role model too. I mean, he was just Jack and Steel. He was a cop. I mean, he just had the things. Like you looked at him and you're like, okay, I've seen enough. Like, I'm just gonna mind my business. But he was always firm and he was always fair. It was really, really cool. And then my best friend at the time, when we were playing ball, I was his son. So he would always get his butt reamed by his dad. And he's like, man, this is so it was awesome. Cause I probably do it to my kid. I think a lot of us probably do it to our kids. But Larry Lyons, my swim coach, he was a huge inspiration. He was an older gentleman. But he would always do this thing like, all right, time to put the hammer down. And man, he put the hammer down when it was like, we would just go swimming. What's just so cool about swimming is it's like no impact. So your joints aren't getting all jacked up, that we can see in other sports that we probably all feel. He would just say these things, and he just had a really awesome leadership quality. And one of the things that he always said, I believe I wrote about this in the book, is like, take care of the small things and the big things will take care of themselves. And that is so true in so many areas of our life. And that is just like something that will always pop into my mind of like, whatever it may be. It's like we can see with dieting, working out, finances, relationships. Like a little text, I love you, is monumental in the other person's mind. It makes their day. That's huge. Take care of the little things and the big things will take care of themselves.
At that point, did you know anything about SEALs? I mean, it was quite early on that you felt a pull towards military, but when you were swimming, did you know that that was going to be something in your life?
No, I didn't. So I knew the military. I knew, I thought special forces or some kind of special element or unit within one of our services, but I didn't know Navy SEAL specific until Popular Mechanics came out with a magazine. And I remember seeing it. I actually stole this issue from the grocery store and I feel horrible for it. But they had all the pictures of their like scuba gear. They had a guy dressed in desert, a guy doing CQB. Like they had like a Halo guy with all his jump gear. And I was like, dude, that's it. That's what I want. And I mean, it's so funny. Like we're talking about Hotwash, is like the dive gear looks so cool on this dude, like popping out of the water. But it's not cool when the water's freezing and you're like, you got sand in your wetsuit and it's like chafing you. It's so funny. The things that look cool are always that cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, but I really fell in love with that. And there was always like some movies like Navy SEALs with Charlie Sheen came out around that time. And there was a time when I swam, I was like, all right, I'm going to go to college and I'm just going to be a swimmer. I'm going to swim in college, get a scholarship because I was starting to get better. And I think there was a time I wanted to be a doctor for a couple of weeks. There was a time, I think I saw The Firm with Tom Cruise. I wanted to be a lawyer. But it always went back to the military. There was just something about that I just like, that was it. And when a buddy of mine that I swam with, he was a year older than I. So he graduated and he went to the Marines. And I got to go down there to Parris Island, South Carolina, which is on the eastern seaboard of the United States. And I went to his graduation. And I just saw the dynamics of the boot camp and I'm like, I want to be a Marine. And so I kind of pushed over the Navy SEAL thing because I was tangibly seeing with my eyes what it was to be a Marine.
And so your dad had no influence on this. It's not the...
No, my dad, he supported me. I mean, we always watch war movies together. So I guess he like maybe encouraged me a little bit more than he realized he was. But I remember the recruiters came over and my mom and dad were there because they both had to sign for me because I was only 17 at the time. So you have to be 18 to sign your life away pretty much. But they willingly, I remember them looking at me like, and they knew the answer. They looked at me like, are you sure you want this? I was like, oh yeah. And they signed and that was it.
You've also said, as a man, this is a quote, I'm not sure if it's from the podcast from the Bob, is, as a man, nobody has a big of an impact in your life as a father. They leave the biggest mark on you. And you said that carries over even to like the smallest of comments that can really like lay on your soul. And your dad didn't even remember the story that inspired you so much.
Not at all.
Yeah.
I think we do that all the time without even realizing it. I know I do with my children. I mean, there's times where I say things, maybe I didn't deliver it as much love as I should have. And very like, where the other person would say like, he's not making time for me because I'm worried about A, B, and C, right? And I got to go back, which was really hard for me because of my pride and not being humble, is going back and like, hey, I'm so sorry that I didn't address you in a better way. And sometimes they're looking at me like, what'd you just do? And I'm like, but I know that I didn't address the way I should have. So that's like a continuous thing, is constantly trying to improve the way I speak to others, especially the people in my house, is always trying to be on your game. And that's tough when you're dealing with work and then this comes up and then, a dog might tear up a pillow or something. There's like, it just seems like it's coming at you, which really, if you really think about it, it's not a big deal, but in the moment it is. But yeah, it's a huge impact. I mean, my dad didn't know. I think we're talking about the anchor story where he just dove in and he pulled up an anchor that fell overboard when we were doing a vacation on this houseboat at this lake. And I remember he didn't talk about it. He just went. I was like, do you guys see this? And he just dove in. It was so manly. There was no like talking. There was no, thankfully there wasn't like a huge stump sticking out or something. He banged his head, but he went down, he grabbed that anchor and he pulled it up and he put it back on the boat. I was like, dude, that is like tough as nails. And it was so cool about it is like, way I put it, I think into like business terminology or how we want to do something in our life, whether it be working out or whatever it is, right? A new hobby is, there's a lot of thinking. We almost talk ourselves out of certain things. We overthink it, we overplan, we do a lot of writing or we do a business plan or whatever it is, and then we never follow through. You got to have action. And that's the problem is my dad, he took action. And I was like, and it just stayed with me. And I think about it quite a bit. I'm like, we just do it. Just go do it. But obviously we want to make sure we're making smart moves, not just blindly going into a situation. But it was just a really awesome learning lesson. And no, he didn't even know about it. I mean, he knows now, obviously, but I'm like, okay, I need to be doing that for my children. I need to be setting a good example for them because those eyes are looking at us. And I didn't realize how much they were. But if we put ourselves and reverse it, that's what we did, right? We look at the ones that brought us up and made an impact or did not make a good impact on our life.
Yeah, we don't know who's watching. Like, we don't know who is watching us right now. And I think that's something that we should always lead our lives with. Like, if we're going to do something, even for me, growing up playing basketball was a huge thing of like, there's a lot of pride in practicing as hard as I possibly could, whether somebody was there or not. Like, it had to be something that I did. And I think carrying that through into adulthood, I've told this story before on the channel where there was a man who would clean the park opposite our film studio, and he'd go around cleaning maybe at like 4 or 5 a.m. And he didn't look like he had that much money, had his dog with him. And I think he was probably homeless, but he'd go cleaning that park up. And one day he wasn't there, maybe after like 3 or 4 months of doing it, he wasn't there, but he wasn't doing it for anything like other than he wanted to clean the park for him and his dog. And after a while, I realized he wasn't there anymore and the park was getting dirty, and I thought, I've got to go clean the park. So then I started cleaning the park. This man who doesn't know me had inspired me. He didn't know I was watching him. He'd inspired me to go clean. Now my son cleans the park. My brother, my sisters go and clean, go clean the local area with the litter pickers and stuff. And, maybe that wouldn't have happened if he hadn't been doing that. He didn't know we were watching. So super important that we live in that way.
It's a lot different if the guy came to you and be like, hey, we should clean the park.
Yeah.
You'd be like, sure.
Yeah.
But you watched him. He didn't say, look at me, I'm guessing.
Not at all, no.
You saw him by his action.
Exactly.
And that's what we need.
Now 5 new people are cleaning the local area without, asking anyone to look at it. People can see that, and it probably is, leads to something much bigger. But
that's really cool that you guys picked it up. That's awesome.
Yeah, you guys picked it up naturally, haven't you? Yeah, it's just.
What if we all did that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Imagine how, for any action, I think that's the truth for like holding the door open for somebody or letting somebody out at a junction. Like, people see that and then, or they're the recipient of that, or I've got a clean park, I'll go do that for my local park or my local area. It's infectious, completely infectious. The one thing I was going to just pick up on that point of doing stuff, we'll speak about it from a Navy SEAL perspective at some point of, obviously you have to plan. Like in the SEALs, like you guys plan to perfection. I mean, there's one of your specialties of like knowing, having that situational awareness. But I think a large portion of young men wanting to do something in life, find a passion, start a business, they are frozen by the idea of overthinking all these things. Do you think that it's more of an asset to them in those early stages to just get stuff done versus having to, plan absolutely everything?
Yeah, I think that kind of goes back to the fear thing. We talk ourselves out of things. What are people going to think of me if I fail? Man, what do they think about you if you don't try? You know what I mean? And every situation is different, but there's a lot of times that we don't do things because we make up these things. We believe we know what's going to happen. Dude, I don't even know what's for dinner. You know what I mean? So like we psych ourselves out. I mean, I've done it many times, and you could see it also in the community. If we like trying to go to the higher level, our tier 1 unit, I know there was guys in there that were afraid to fail. They made it this far, they don't want to go out with a failure. You know what I'm saying? I also know guys that failed, and like, I'm so glad I give it a shot. It's like, okay, what do you want to live with? And we can see this not just in the SEAL community or in military, we can see in businesses. I want to try to get to this position. I want to try to go do this or whatever. But that brings us back to, well, we'll get to that later. If you are what you do, I'll save that one. That's in the holster.
When you reach those levels though, you do try and protect it. Like, if somebody reaches a business at a certain level, like you can often see they are the ones who stunt their growth. Like, they could have carried on flying, but they start to realize, oh, this is kind of what I wanted, or I'm close to, or I can live comfortably now. And they stunt their growth, and they could have been the next big thing. Not that they wanted that, maybe they're happy and content with what they're doing, but a lot of people put the end to that momentum because they want to protect it. Like they want to protect what they've got, which, you know, of course it makes sense.
You said content, like we're happy. Are we though? You know what I'm saying? Like
I'm never, I guess that's a bigger issue.
But people are happy with, I guess you could say, the mundaneness, like the average, it's like, hey, I wanted to be the boss of whatever. I'm here, I'm finally here. And I think some people draw the line like, okay, I'm good, I'm done. And no, dude, there's so much more. There's so much more for us to be doing. It doesn't have to be in the same area. It could be in something else. It could be growth in our family. It could be growth in ourselves. It could be growth in the community. There's always something more. Like I believe there's always a next mountain. I don't know what that is, but I think a lot of people just get to a point and they put up a white flag and, you know, like, I'm done. I'm staying right here. And I really believe that lack of adventure, that lack of drive tears them apart.
Was there a moment for you, like in your career, where you'd reach that point and maybe gone, okay, I'm happy here?
I think that happened continuously. No, you just want to keep going and strive and strive. I felt like that when I could no longer operate and I got custody of my children. There was a season of, what am I going to do with my life? Because everything was SEAL training. Everything was that. That was my identity. That was everything. And then when that kind of got pulled away, I was left with myself, and that was scary. It was very, very scary for me.
That's one of the biggest parts of this conversation we're having today. Who are you once you remove, you know, the facade, you know, the hallmark of who you are. And for you, that was the, you know, elite SEAL guy. And we've got the whole story here is going to talk about who you are, but like just on the face of that, back then, who were you once you took that away from yourself?
A child, a lost boy. I always thought that I was a man. You know, you get to the highest SEAL community, everyone says this. You can do physically so many things. Like, you know your capabilities. It's pretty impressive with all your assets and all that stuff, and you working as a team. It's pretty neat. You take that away, and I always describe it as being at a train station and there's no one there and there's no train. You're just standing there, and it's like, there's nothing. Leaves and trash are blowing by, and you're just, there might be a flickering light by you. There's just nothing. It's just desolate. And it's like, and I really feel that point is when I realized I need something way more in my life than a title, an earthly accomplishment. Because I was straight up, I would look at myself in the mirror and be like, dude, you ain't got this figured out. You don't have it figured out. You don't even know what to do. And I didn't. And that was tough, because I was a big boy. I was strong. I had my tats. The world would say that dude's got it figured out, but I wasn't, man. It was chaos.
Just a quick interruption from the video. I want to talk about today's sponsor, LMNT. If you've been watching Mulligan Brothers for a while, you know we're constantly on the road, filming documentaries, training with elite performers, and chasing stories of resilience. That kind of schedule means long days, early mornings, and a lot of sweat, literally. But most sports drinks out there are full of sugar, fake colors, and barely any real electrolytes. That's why we've partnered with LMNT, a zero sugar drink mix that has 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, and 60 milligrams of magnesium in every single stick. No dodgy ingredients, science-backed hydration, trusted by the Navy SEALs, everyday athletes, CrossFit champions, and now us. They've just dropped their limited time lemonade salt, which has quite quickly become my favorite flavor, but it's only available as a limited drop, so make sure you get it while stocks last. Right now, LMNT is giving our community a free sample pack with every single purchase. Just head to drinkelement.com/mulligan and grab yours. All you need to do is add your favorite product to your cart and LMNT will automatically add the free sample pack with their most popular drink flavors. No promo code needed. It'll only work if you follow the dedicated link in the description. And if you don't love it, they'll refund your order, no questions asked. That's how confident they are. That's drinkelement.com/mulligan to get a free sample pack with a link down below. Stay salty and let's dive back into the episode.
Let's give context to this and get into the journey through it. So you joined the Marines, and what was that stint like in the Marines?
So I went in 96. When I graduated high school, I went straight in, and then I was there for 4 years. And I went to Quantico, Virginia, a non-deployable unit, which is really weird. When I was at the School of Infantry in North Carolina, all the P's, if your last name started with P, so Penny, last name started with P, I believe there was like 9 of us. We all went to this, all the P's went to this unit. And I remember raising my hand, I'm like, look, I'm supposed to be deploying. I'm supposed to go to an infantry unit. And I'm like, oh, it is. I'm like, I feel like it's not. And it wasn't. It wasn't like we were getting ready for deployment and going overseas and going on ship or whatever it was. And all we did was train. And I was very bummed by that. And I tried to make the best of it. I learned a ton of stuff, met some awesome people, but it just wasn't, there was a void. There was that void. And that's when I tried to go to sniper school, which I was super excited, but I couldn't even get the right score to get on the shooting test. You have to get like a specific score on a shooting test. And I missed it like 3 or 4 times by 1 point. 1 point, I kept missing it. 1 point. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And it just like gives it a perfect case for, unanswered prayers or whatever. Not that I was praying back then or anything, but it's just like, why? I was like, what? And then I get to the SEAL community and I'm like, awesome shot. It's just you can't explain it, you know? So I did that. And then I switched over to the Navy. Once I when I realized I couldn't go to sniper school, after I got over the, I guess you could say the butt hurtness, I was like, okay, let's do the SEAL thing that I always wanted to do as I was a kid. And people thought I was nuts. You can't even get into sniper school and you want to go do this? Like those don't mesh, do they? I mean, for me it did, but it doesn't. And no, I knew it was it.
There was one story from the Marines, I think it was, the training. Tell me if I'm wrong. The itching of a bug, where you was dogged out in the training. Yeah,
that was in boot camp.
In boot camp,
yeah. Oh man, that was for me. I always describe switches. That was a switch. Like I can amp it up now. I know it's time to get it on, turn to savage mode. Like we can see it in the gym. Like, okay, now it's time to go get it, right? They're called a switch. Yeah, I was there. We were standing at like, whatever, we had the rifle across our shoulder. And they have these sand fleas down in Paris Island. And they're very small, but I'm telling you, it feels like a pterodactyl just ripped off your arm. Like it don't hurt that bad, but it's very annoying. But I saw one crawl on my forearm and I was trying to use my peripheral vision to see where the drill instructors were. And I thought I was in the clear and I kind of just like wiped it away and went back. And all I heard was the worst thing ever, recruit Penny. And he said, fall out. And I fell out and I just followed him to this sand pit and he beat the heck out of me. Not beat the heck out of me, but like with calisthenics, push-ups, sprints, sit-ups, all leg lifts, leg levers, all the things. We were there for a long, long time. I mean, I say this all the time, but it was this how long. The shadows of the trees were on the opposite side. We were there for a very, very long time. And I remember he started doing these, like tell me to run to this shed. That was probably like, I don't know. It seemed like forever, but probably 50, 100 yards, maybe like 50 yards. So I'd run to it and I'd get back. He's like, oh, you missed it. Do it again. And I kept doing it and kept doing it. And I was realizing I was getting to a place of I can't win. It's especially from a dude that likes to control things and make sure that everything's good. It just wasn't good. And I started crying right there in the middle of this sand pit. Like, thank God I was like sweating so bad and like it was getting in my eyes. I was like, I hope he thinks that like, was the sweat that's making my eyes water. But he knew, and after a couple iterations of like me just getting so frustrated, I like wanted to like fight, but I would have got destroyed because I was smoked and he was much bigger and stronger than I was, and he was not smoked. And I remember he came up to me and I was like in my pity and my sorrows and my tears. And he just said something, and I believe it was just like how important discipline was. About it might be a sand flea to you, but it could cost you or even more importantly, your buddy's life. And I was like, it just like, it hit me. Like I went from this like very shy, timid, scared, fearful boy. And it was like, that was the event that I like the Unafraid was kind of birthed. Is like, why am I getting down about this? Like, I started to embrace the pain. I started to embrace the hard breathing. I started to embrace what he was giving me, which was only making me stronger and bigger. Not only like physically, but more importantly, mentally. And I started capturing those emotions a little bit better. And I changed my mindset. I went from poor me, the victim mentality, to, okay, let's go. Give me more. And he did for much longer, but it was different. And that paid off big time in buds when they're like, oh, we're gonna keep doing push-ups for hours. We would call it up like, fine, do it. We would call out the instructors, do it. What are you gonna do? Make us tired? Go. You're not breaking this. And we would straight up do that. Not all, but it'd be like, okay, cool, bring it. And it's carried over. Don't get me wrong. There's times where I'm like, I want to go fetal position it over in the corner, like leave me alone. But for the most part, it's like, okay, let's go. Like it's a different mindset. Like, let's go get it. Let's go better ourselves.
I want to do like an in-depth look at buds, but just before that, did you ever see that manifest, that idea of like something so small, like flicking a bug, manifest it into an issue when someone was on deployment that you'd been around? Yeah,
the first thing that I came up with this, like we did a map study and it didn't look like the elevation didn't look too gnarly. And then we got to it, we were 3 points of contact, the side of a mountain, and we were on it for a few hours. I mean, a small detail, I mean, that could have been very bad. And I'm sure if I sat down and thought about it, I can think of ones that I personally did that, some people forgot to chamber a round. And then you get in a gunfight and there's a click, a dead man's gun. I'm sure that's happened to many people. Small thing, again, take care of the small things. The big things will take care of themselves. There's many, many things that I think happen. You can go back through history, read certain books, like because of a specific situation or one little miscue or detail that was missed causes huge catastrophe. We can see this in modern day operations, especially in the SEAL community.
Buds, Hell Week as well. It's like, this is like a thing that kind of fascinates people.
I don't know why, because it's not that fun.
Well, I'd love to do an in-depth look about what it takes mentally to get through Buds and Hell Week. So class 237, is that right?
That is.
The thing that I thought was interesting that I've never thought of is your description of it is like, it takes place in this like quite unassuming place. It's not where you'd expect the superheroes to be built, but it's like, how do you explain the facility or the training grounds?
Well, the area is like, it's on, so North Island is right there, but that's where the Hotel Del Coronado is. It's a very nice hotel. Like people vacation there, as like right next door, people are getting beat down. So it's a very nice setting, minus the cold water of the Pacific. But it's nice. I mean, it's San Diego, so the weather's amazing, which is the West Coast, our southern part of the United States. But I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, it is beautiful, but it's not when that stuff's going on.
So, sand, water, weather, like these combination of things, I think you've said is some of the things that really destroy you. Like, yeah. But before you get started, you do INDOC, is that right?
So it's changed, I believe, since I've been there. But when I went through, we did, I believe it was 5 weeks of INDOC, and it was like a 6 to like noon. We did a workout, some classes sometimes, and that was it for 5 weeks. So it wasn't like crazy. And we would do some other things like pool covers or other stuff that needed to be done around the compound to help out because we were like the new guys coming in. But yeah, that was it. That was for 5 weeks. And then we classed up.
When you were doing INDOT, like who are the people that you see around you? Like, are these guys elite in what they do? Like who are the kind of the people that it attracts to get to that point?
You mean like the guys that are going through buds with me?
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, a lot of studs, like you look, I mean, there are a lot of guys that are very physically fit, just beasts. I mean, it's like, you know, you think you're strong and can do all these things, and then you put yourself in when there's like 100 of you surrounding you. It's a little bit different. So you're like, man, I hope I can, it can be intimidating. But what I learned, especially through that training, is a guy that looks beastly, again, it goes back to your mind. They can crumble really quick when you start implementing cold, tired, sand, I'm hungry, someone's yelling at me, my pride's getting affected, I'm the victim like I had in the sand pit. It's a lot different. And I've seen guys that are like, this guy is no way going to make it, and he does. He has a heart of a lion. You can't explain it.
So this is the interesting thing we spoke about earlier. You said, you know, some of that conversation that whispers right at the start of it is guys like, oh, how did you train for this? How did you prep for this test? I've been doing cold water.
See, there it is. I'm psyching myself out.
Yeah.
There it is. Yeah.
And you said a lot of those guys, you would have it, like, you'd kind of like chuckle to yourself a little bit thinking like, it's not about that. Like, what was it about?
Yeah, I think a lot of guys are like, okay, I'm gonna start taking cold showers. Not that it's not healthy. I'm gonna do cold showers. I'm gonna get used to the cold. Okay, I don't think that happens. And I'm gonna sleep deprive myself. I wouldn't recommend it. Like, take care of yourself right now. And a lot of guys would start wearing boots. They would do a lot of rucks and stuff like that. So what they were doing is they were starting to get little stress fractures. So it's like, dude, be smart, get in shape. Like, the process will get you to where they want you to go. You know what I mean? A lot of people think that they need to be there before they get there. And what happens, because you can't do that training all the time. We all know this. They get there and they've already got injuries. And those injuries just surface as the training intensifies. So a lot of guys are just they overthink it. It's like, dude, I remember one guy was like, hey man, just like suck it up and go through it. It's like, it's kind of fun. Like, you get to see what your body does. Other people are there because misery loves company. Like, you're not alone. Other people have done this before you, so it's nothing new. They're going to try to psych you out and all that stuff. And guys will be like, oh yeah, I can do 100 push-ups. I'm like, cool, that doesn't matter. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, I mean, that's good that you can do 100 push-ups, but like, if you do 100 push-ups or 50 push-ups in about 10 minutes, both of you are going to be able to do 0 push-ups because you're smoked. And now this guy's got to come into play. That's the game. People we always want to put numbers on things. That's not it.
Yeah, it's interesting. It doesn't matter if you reach 100 push-ups or 50 push-ups. At some point, you're going to have to tap into the mental.
Yeah, it's up there. It's like you just keep going and keep trying to get a push-up, knowing that you're not going to, but you're not going to stop. That's it. Because that's what they want to see on a battlefield. I'm not leaving my boy behind. I'm taking it. I'm finishing this fight until I can't anymore. That same stuff goes in our family life, work, business, children. It's all the same stuff. It just looks different.
So it's split into 3 phases, or yours was. Is it still 3 phases today?
I believe so, yeah. So you get first phase, second phase, third phase.
Yeah.
Good figure, right? It's 2 months each one. The first phase is like your basic phase. And that's where Hell Week is. For me, Hell Week was the 3rd week. I've heard that they pushed it back to the 5th week. I've heard that they moved it forward. I'm not sure where it is right now. But for us, it was the 3rd week. And you would do a lot of runs. You would do a lot of surf torture, where you would like lock arms and you would walk out in the surf and you would just sit in the cold water and just get bashed by the waves. They would pull you out saying it was over. And then they'd be like, just kidding, go back in. So they're like playing with your mind, right? Because they're trying to get your mind to break, right? And you would do that. Then you have Hell Week, which would kick off. And that's usually where all the people, and there was people getting dropped before Hell Week. But Hell Week is really when, people get sucked out. And it's usually for some injuries. I mean, a couple injuries, but for just stupid stuff, they would psych themselves out.
So this is the interesting thing to me is the mental games of it. So to bow out, you have to ring the bell.
Correct.
And that's, you know, that's something that's throughout all 3 phases, is it?
Unless like a doctor's like, hey, he can't go on, he's injured, which those poor guys, like, I mean, you can't help that. Yeah,
But
for
so
sure.
then
You
on
have to
Hell
ring
Week, they bring that bell.
everywhere. It's everywhere. It's right there. They'll even say, we're not finishing this until someone quits. And they're not lying.
You'll be out there all day until someone
They'll
brings the
wait.
bell.
We'll actually start cheering for the people we don't like to go quit.
Wow. Do you remember that happening in your group?
Yeah, I remember that. We were running up the berm with the logs, and like, this isn't going to end until someone quits. And we started shouting out a guy's name that was just like kind of a jerk to everyone, very mean. And he quit.
He rang the bell.
He rang the bell.
Wow.
After, I'd say probably an hour or two of just like carrying these heavy logs up and down the sand berm.
You have to pick one thing. What was the worst thing about Hell Week?
Like the running and the sand and just being miserable, I really did not have a problem with it. I mean, it sucked, but it's not like, oh gosh, like we're going to quit. But they took us, this was very unexpected to me. It's like the unknown. So North Island in Buds is on a strand. It's called Silver Strand. It's on a like a little sliver of, it's like a little peninsula, not even that wide. So on one side you have the ocean, the other side you have the San Diego Bay. Like you see the city right there. It's beautiful. I mean, it is beautiful. Not when you're in this stuff though. And they took us to the Bay Area, and the Bay Area is always warmer water, which we're like, anytime we go over there, we're like, yes, dude, warmer water. Like just by a little bit, but it's still, you can feel the difference. And we go and we walk back, we get on this bay, there's no waves, we lock arms and we're backwards, so we're facing the beach, and they say walk backwards. So we walk and we get to like not deep water, like maybe up to our ankles. And they're like, sit down. So I'm like, this is awesome. Is this like rest day or something? So we sit down and they're like, okay, lay back now. So we like lay back just enough to where you can breathe. Like there's some little water because you got your buddies next to you kind of splashing around or trying to get comfortable. And then you started feeling these bites. Like it was like these little, a different kind of sand flea, I believe, or something. They would bite your neck. They were getting down your shirt and they started biting you everywhere. And like, it was so unexpected. At least for me, it was so unexpected. I'm like, do they know that there's things in here? And like, you can start hearing the chatter going around that everyone's getting bit by these things, these, whatever they were. And that was unexpected. And I did not like that. It was so annoying and it didn't feel that good. It wasn't like it was going to rip your flesh, but it was enough to like, it was like a little pinch, like a little, just under like a bee sting, you know, not as intense, but they just kept biting you around your neck. And it was so, it's just like somebody tapping you nonstop. And then they're like saying whatever they're saying on beach, like you guys suck, blah, 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 all the things. It just wasn't a pleasant scenario. I would say that was probably the most miserable thing for me.
And so just to get this right, so you're carrying logs and boats around, like the boats are what, 200 pounds? Is that between how many people?
So usually about 6, and I only think, I don't know how much it is, and I don't want to like misspeak, but I don't think it's more than 100,
right? Okay,
or it's under 100. I'm not sure, but I mean, you do that forever. It gets very heavy, and then when they dump sand in it or water, it gets even heavier. But that to me, that was like, all right, cool. I get to lift weights, so it wasn't a big deal to me. Like I always loved log day, even though it did suck. But I was like, oh, cool, we're lifting heavy things, which was way better than running. Anything but that. I'd rather do swim. I'd rather lift things. I'd rather them beat me with push-ups and all the things. But when we came to the runs, I was like, oh my gosh, please make this end.
You get through Hell Week, and I think you found phase 2 and phase 3 quite comfortable after that?
Yeah, so phase 2 was probably my hardest. There was an event in there that was my hardest out of Buds in general, and that was, and for a lot of guys, it wasn't hard at all. You would put on your twin 80, so you got your 2 open circuit tanks on your back. You had fins on, and you would just jump in, and you had to tread water with your hands above the water for 5 minutes. That was the toughest thing I did. That was the toughest event for me in Buds, because after like 20 seconds, my legs were done. We got to do 5 minutes of this. And I had the thought, I'm like, well, I'll just do it next time because you get 3 tries. So I was like, well, okay, I felt it. I'll just try it again. But I'm like, when I was thinking about this, I'm like, I'm still gonna have to do it. I've already done not long. I might as well just finish it. And I just muscled through it, dude, in just pure grit. I just like went through it, but that was the hardest thing. And my buddy's even like, dude, I thought you were going down. I was like, bro, I thought I was going down. That was the hardest thing for me, was that event. And for some guys, that was like the easiest thing. Where like being tied up in ropes was super easy for me, where that was like the hardest thing for them. There's something for everyone. There's always something that'll get you. I mean, that's why the attrition's so high.
Did you know going in what that would be? Did you know it was going to be that treading water?
No clue. Heck no. I was like, cool. All right, this is easy. You're giving me fins? But like, yeah, that surprised me, and it smoked me. Like I was done. Thank God it wasn't 6 minutes.
Wow. Okay. I mean, we've covered like most of it. That was it. This was an interesting thing for me. The helmets lined up, like having the people who bow out, having all those helmets lined up. Does that? What were the tricks that they used that would creep that sort of? I don't know, like opening the door for you to quit? Was there ever a moment? Obviously, that particular event for you was one where you're like, oh, maybe I'll just come back next week or next time. But was there anything that like really worked, like the visuals of the bell being there or the helmets being there, or was there anything that stood out as being quite strong?
Those things motivated me. Like seeing all the helmets, like the more helmets we got, the more motivation I was fueled. I was like, okay, cool. I mean, at that time, I was like, all right, I'm better than that person. I'm stronger than that guy. I'm not quitting. So the longer that line got, the ones that are left, that was fuel.
Interesting. Do you think for some people they don't have that same mentality? Because I think you could go one or two ways with that.
100%. I mean, that's it. Like, are we going to play the victim game, or are we going to be like, hey, this is my situation. Let's rise. I mean, that is the choice I believe we have, not only in buds but everywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like something that might be detrimental to one person's brain is not a big deal to the other, and vice versa. But I think that a lot of times you can use things to your motivation that people tend to bring them down. You know what I mean? Mm. A lot of people could look at that same situation like, man, look how many people are quitting. Okay, cool. It'll be acceptable if I quit. I can justify it because we did this event and like 30 guys dropped. I mean, it's Hell Week. Everyone knows about Hell Week. It's so hard. I quit in Hell Week, just like everyone else. I can justify it for myself. I can almost, again, self-sabotage and talk myself into quitting. Or I can be like, yeah, I don't think so. I'm not falling for your games. What's next? I want to learn how to dive and jump out of planes. Like, so it's, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine it now, like the instructors saying, you know, opening that door for people.
They'll be like, you'll never make it. I never want you on my team. I'll make sure if you do make it, you can't operate. They'll say things like that just to get under your skin, and it works. Why would you change it?
Whilst you were in phase 2, 9/11 happened, which was obviously must have like shook the whole thing up. I think you said that there was like whispers of, are they going to rush us through? Are we going to be put, you know,
I think those are whispers that we made up.
Yeah.
I think we were hopeful. Oh my gosh, we're going to like fly through this in a couple of weeks.
What was the shift after that? Like what was this sort of common understanding from everybody?
I mean, it was on. Like we knew that we were going to go to combat. I mean, we knew we were going to combat. It didn't change. I will say this, man. I will say this. The instructors before and after were professional and were treated very seriously before those planes hit and after, which is pretty cool. It's one thing if, you know, you're going through the motions and okay, let's be real now because something real's about to happen. I couldn't tell any kind of shift whatsoever. They were on point from day one until we graduated. It was really cool. But in our mind, in our students' mind, and for those instructors as well, because they're not staying there forever. That's just a duty station. They'll go back to a team, most likely. Most of them. But yeah, it got real. It's like, okay, I think there was, not that you weren't focused, it was just like a hyper focus. Like I need to it's going to be as real as it's going to get, because we've never experienced that before. You know what I mean? I think the last time this stuff was going on was Vietnam. We had Desert Storm and Desert Shield and all that stuff, but it was a little bit different. We knew something monumental was about to happen.
What's the process of going from passing the 3 phases and getting your Trident? Like, is there a gap in between? Like, do you have to wait, or is it instant?
So for us, and again, I believe this has changed for us at the time. Now, Buds, I believe, has free fall and jump school on station now, I believe. But we did our 6 months. So your first phase, dive phase, second phase, and then land warfare, your third phase, and learn about demoing, shooting, and all that. Then we went to Fort Benning, Georgia, and we did 3 weeks of static line jump. So we went through the Army school, and we had to do 2 weeks of training, and then the last week you do 5 static line jumps. After that, we would come back, and it was called SEAL qualified training for us. And it was that 3 months of operational training. And then after that 3 months, because there were still guys getting dropped throughout, not a lot, but still some guys getting injured. After that, you would get your Trident. And after that, you would go to your SEAL team.
And what was that moment like for you?
It was awesome. I told you, at lunch, I threw pretty much everything away because I turned it into placed it up as an idol. But it was everything, dude. I remember driving from San Diego to Virginia Beach, and I would pull out my Trident and just hold it in my hand like every 2 seconds. But it was awesome, man, because that was everything. Like, you're just trying to get to that Trident, and it's almost like we talk about with the father thing. Like, hey, you're good enough. You made it. Good job. I'm proud of you. But then you learn when you get to the team, you're not. You're not good enough. We got to learn so much more, which never ends. But it was quite of an accomplishment, especially being a kid and seeing that and wanting that and knowing what it meant.
I think I'm in that same thinking of wanting the gold star. Like, obviously, it's such a huge achievement. It means so much more than just the badge. But I think it's that approval that we want. Like, we want that approval.
We do it with diplomas on our wall, right? Look at me, I'm a doctor. Not that I'm discrediting that stuff, or look, I passed the bar exam to be a lawyer. We do it all the time. Sports players, I'm in the professionals, right? We do it all the time, all the time.
I've been getting tons of messages asking about my health protocols ever since I did the world's heaviest marathon. The experience took a toll, and getting back to optimal health has been an absolute journey. That's where Marek Health have been absolutely essential. Their approach is beyond quick fixes. It's about long-term health and performance. They work with medical professionals to create personalized, evidence-based plans tailored to your needs, using pharmaceutical-grade treatments and cutting-edge diagnosis. Whether it's TRT, peptides, supplements, or like me, getting full health analysis to get you back on track, Marek Health provides everything that you need. And it's not just for athletes. If you're an entrepreneur or businessman like me, you might want that renewed focus, clarity, and energy. That's when Marek Health can get your brain performing at its peak. From comprehensive blood work to customized health plans, Marek gives you the tools to optimize your life. If you're ready to take control of your health, go to marekhealth.com and use code Mulligan for 10% off. The link's down below. I can't recommend them enough. And if you just wanted to get started, I would go and get your blood work done. Go get assessed, find out where they can help you. Use the link down below for 10% off using code Mulligan. Let's dive back into the video.
I love to keep things chronological, but I think it's worthwhile to say it in the air right now. It's best to say it now. Is that conversation of the garage that you had, full of all your, your successes in the military, or the Tridents, absolutely everything was there, and then one day you just decided, I'm going to rip it all down. I'm going to give it all away. Like, what was the thinking there?
It wasn't me that said, let's get rid of it. I was laying in bed, and I was just laying down. I was praying. I was just laying there. I was praying, and I just heard, like, "Hey, get rid of your patches." And it was more my tier 1 patches. And I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Did I hear right?" I always do that when I don't want to hear something. But the conviction was overwhelming, and I, like, right there in my heart, I was like, "You said so, so I will." And as soon as I did that, as soon as I got up, I put my feet on the ground, I'm telling you, dude, it felt like a layer was removed from me, like a weight was lifted off my body. And I walked to my third car garage and I took all the things that I put up on this pedestal and I threw them in the trash. And that's it. And after that, I started going through things that I didn't need anymore. And I got rid of most of all my stuff. Like I had a garage packed. I got rid of pretty much everything. I have very little now. I got rid of all of it. I don't need any more.
I mean, that goes back to that question of like, who are you once that's removed? But I guess you were starting to find yourself at that point. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't have removed it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, like walking with the Lord, you know, he's so amazing. He's so amazing to show you what you were doing and so loving and gently kind of putting you back on true north towards him. And that's what he was doing is I idolized that was my identity, was being a SEAL. My identity was, I was so proud of going over and shooting bad guys. I was so proud of it. Like there was so much tangible accomplishment. But like I said, going back to the kid thing, when I got custody of him, I lost of who I was as a man. You know what I mean? It was empty. I wasn't even a man at all. And he showed me that and he convicted me. I'm like, man, I want to be who you say I am. So I had a choice. I have a choice. We all have a choice. Daily, we have this choice. And I obeyed. I was obedient to what he said because I trust him.
I mean, talking about that, getting rid of the Trident and all the stuff like that, I think when you say, when I think of them on the wall, I'm thinking about myself. If I have an award or something that I do have it as like almost like a deity, like I pray to it. And I guess massive conflict there with, even if you remove the religious portion out of it, like there's a massive issue of doing that. Like that's not.
And there's nothing wrong with accomplishments.
Yeah. Of course,
it's all a heart issue. Is that who you are now? Like I've met guys, the first thing they want to do is they want to tell me their resume. Like, what's your first name again? You know what I mean? Yeah. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
like, hey, I got to tell them my accomplishments so they know who I am. What? We have an identity problem here. Buddy, come on, man.
Yeah, you can achieve all these great things. That's fantastic, but that's not who you are.
It goes back to, if you are what you do and what you do is lost, who are you? That is a tough, can be painful question to answer if we're going to be truthful with ourselves. A lot of guys, especially in the military, law enforcement, firefighters, doctors, lawyers, you know, those prestigious positions, whatever. I attended this college, right? They're wrapped up into it. They're wrapped up into it, and there's more than just that. Like, we got to move. I mean, great, that's awesome. Great accomplishment, but that shouldn't be how you look at yourself. Hi, my name's Eddie. I was a Navy SEAL. Okay, no, I'm Eddie. How you doing? Let's talk about some good stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need to vomit my deployments and all what I did, which I used to do. Like, I remember having conversations with people and like, okay, who had the most kills, or, you know, who did cooler stuff, or all the things. And it's like, dude, we're missing it. We are so missing it.
I think to give this context, that building of who you are, like, and I think there's some really interesting facets of who you were, especially in your career, of even to the point where like how addicted you almost were to the idea of killing people. Like, and we're talking to the reasons why that was, like why you wanted that so badly.
Just to cap that off, sorry, man.
No, go.
It's like, if I were to die tomorrow, do I want my wife and my children to be like, yeah, he was a Navy SEAL? Or do I want them to be like, he was so loving, he was always there, he put us first, he cared about us? Or will they say he was so angry, he cussed nonstop? That's what it is.
That's a really good way of putting it.
That's what it is.
I think the whole point of this conversation is that, I mentioned this to you earlier, is people see the SEALs and they're on a pedestal, and we put you guys on a pedestal, and rightly so. Like, the work that you do, it protects this nation, but I think we also believe that you're bulletproof in every single aspect of your life. To hear that there's, you know, that there's these faults, there's these men behind that facade that we give you guys as well, I think it's so empowering for people. Like, I think it is absolutely magical. I think the situation that you went through where you fought for custody of your kids is a great situation where a lot of people will be able to understand it a little bit more. And the fact that that was one of your darkest moments when, you know, you're out there. I think some people be like, well, he's out there facing some of the most evil there is on earth. But, you know, a court fighting for your kids is really the thing that's bringing you to your knees and almost, you know, ended it for yourself. It's so humanizing. I think it's absolutely incredible.
And I didn't see it that way. I was like, I mean, that was, and I've told my children this, I'm like, that was tough for me to drop. I mean, just the thing that you wanted more than anything, and you put all the blood, sweat, and tears through for years. And that was it, with a push of a button or a second. And it's like, okay, so like, now what? Like, I'm not a function. Yeah, darkest moment for sure. That right there. And other people would be like, dude, that's the greatest thing. And it is the greatest thing. Not at that moment when I was all about me. And my family was backburnered. You know what I mean?
Could you take us to the day, like the day that would sort of capture the darkest part of that time period?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is when I got, so we went to court for custody or whatever. And after all the things, like I was pretty much painted as being a very bad person, but there was some not truthful stuff and the judge saw it all. So the kids were given to me and I was about to deploy a couple weeks later and my command knew about it and they were so cool, dude. They were so cool. And they said, dude, take this deployment and learn how to be a dad. They were so spot on when I needed to learn how to be a dad, but come to find out there's not a school for that. I can go learn to be a sniper, be the best jump parachutist, whatever, be a breacher, you know, do all these great things, but there is not how to be a dad school. Go figure, right? So that's what I did, that deployment, and it was probably the hardest deployment I did was I was at home with my children trying to figure out how to be a dad, and not in a good way, because that's when I started to really slip in more into the like drinking wine, popping pills to sleep. I couldn't sleep. I mean, there would be a couple of days I'd be awake, and then I would sleep good for a couple of days, and then the process would start over, and the dreams of killing would come in big time, and it was just consuming my night. It was a very bad place, and I think it was going back to I didn't know who I was, dude. I mean, like everything was in that SEAL card, which is so sad to say. But I can see it with my brothers that are there still or just got out. I can still see it on them. They're so sucked into, do you know what I did? Okay, cool. Who are you now? That's what matters. You know what I mean?
The idea of dreaming of killing, that was, you know, taking the pills to sleep, to have vivid dreams, to dream about killing, kind of shows the extent of how much of a factor that was in your life, like how important that was. Do you remember your first kill that you got? Like, do you remember that feeling of what that felt like?
I do. It was awesome. I do remember it. I remember what he was wearing. I remember who was next to me. I remember all of it. And it was so, because for some reason, I just always wanted to get the bad guys. Always wanted to get the bad guys. And that happened. And then just something got sparked internally where I wanted more. That's actually biblical. We're never happy. We always want more. And we can see this all the time. Why is one piece of cake okay? I'll take two, right? Like we always want more. We want more. Like I'm not strong enough. I'm not fast enough, right? We always want more. And I wanted more. And it just fed the machine. And yeah.
This idea, this thirst for killing, on first reading it's quite a visceral image. And I think after speaking to you today, I've got context of why why you had those feelings. As a SEAL, you have so much intel and information on who the people are that you're approaching. It's not the same as, you know, it's not a gun battle with, I'm sure there's situations where there are, but like you're going into a place knowing exactly who this person is, exactly what they've done and why you are there. Is that the reason that it's easier to do it, or not easier to do it? Is that the reason where you got so much satisfaction to do it?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it helps to know it's not just some random guy on the street. You know, you know. I mean, some of the things they're very detailed of what they did. I remember one was that we did in Africa. The guy, he blew up either an embassy or a hotel and killed all these people. That was easy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't just some, hey, there's this guy, here's what he looks like, go get him. You know, we usually knew like, hey, these guys are responsible for these attacks that happened up north or whatever. We knew a lot of the stuff because our intelligence community is really spot on. They're really good. They were good at getting the information. So I guess you could say, yeah, it made it easy because you knew who it was. It was easy to form, this guy's bad, needs to go.
Do you think then there's I think there's still a public opinion who won't be able to swallow the way in which you talk about killing, even though you know that those people are bad and going to continue to do bad things and probably going to cause harm or kill much more people. Do you think there's something wrong with society in that way, or wrong with developing maybe a weakness? Because I feel like the opinion's sort of leaning more towards the not being able to swallow that.
I understand both sides of it, you know? I mean, we can't say, well, they would be fine when they got older if they were, you know what I'm saying? If they were kids with terrorists, we can't say, yeah, they will, or no, they won't. We can't say that. And we can't say that that person is going to continue doing what he's going to do, or he's going to turn and actually like not do the things. We can't do that. We can only do with what the information we have at the time, based off of what, you know, has happened in the past and what we're being pretty much commanded to go take out. But I don't have regrets. And I've said this many times, I have no regrets of shots that I've taken. I just don't. And does that make me a bad person? No, because I've worked everything out with the Lord. And I was like, oh my gosh, please forgive me. And yeah, there's nothing is on my conscience that haunts me or anything. I have nothing on it whatsoever. But and I've said this many times, is there are shots that I did not take where I watched with my eyes innocent children die because I didn't take out a bad guy because I wasn't sure if it was the bad guy. That still can come up sometimes. So I'm like, man, I could just go through the thought process. If I would have taken that shot just a millisecond more, you know, the guy wouldn't have clacked himself off and killed his family.
Is that a situation that had happened?
100% a true situation.
And you just didn't have the intel on the guy, or?
Well, the guy, I was up on a wall, and this is in the book. I was up on a wall and I could see in the doorway. I was on the front door and it was dark outside and it was light inside. So, you know, the light dark contrast. And the guy straight up comes in the middle of the room, and it just happens to be my vantage point where I could see, and he has no shirt on and he's got some kind of belt, but I couldn't see what it was, if he had pants on. And I thought it was a suicide belt or something, which we just saw the night before and the night before that and the week before that. So this terrorist cell was using a lot of those. Took out a couple buddies using those. And I saw it. And I'm sorry, this is where we lost guys that night, my bad. And I just paused, and all of a sudden I see these kids come in, which made me pause more. I was like, I don't want to take a shot if this is their father. That father blew himself up and killed every one of those kids. So that right there to me haunts me more than a shot that I took of a bad guy that I know all about, that I had all the intelligence for, can match positive ID with faces, whatever it would be. That gets me a little bit more. Because right now I know there's 3 to 4 kids that are not, well, we never know what they would be. But they were too young to even know what they were in. That doesn't sit well with me. So, okay, we take those experiences versus someone else's experience who hasn't maybe been exposed to this kind of stuff, and we have different opinions, which we're all allowed to have our opinions. And we can respect each other's opinions. I have my opinion based off of my experiences. They have theirs based off of maybe their experiences or what they think.
Do you think there is more of an innate issue with it, like society's idea of it? There's been loads of situations, where people have, maybe stood up for good, fought for good. I mean, the specific situations that come to mind, I don't want to bring up specifically, but where they've been maybe prosecuted, arrested, or have happened that maybe make it or difficult to fight for good, or even it's frowned upon to fight for good. I just think that general opinion of fighting in general is just bad, even if it is to fight evil.
Yeah, I mean, fighting sucks. That'd be, he wouldn't get out real quick. I don't think anyone wants that unless you're young and dumb and really don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, that's what problem is. We have opinions and political stuff and other things kind of come into the realm of fighting. Fighting in general, war, combat, has been around forever. Since the beginning, there has been fighting. That's human nature. There is good and there is evil. And if you don't try to suppress evil, that evil is going to consume. And there's got to be some kind of, you've got to mitigate it. You got to fight what you can fight with good. You have to. Or else, can you imagine that? All the cops, I need you to put down your guns, turn in your badges, go live your life. Can you imagine that? They tried that in Portland. It didn't work out too well. So, you got to have people that are standing up for good. Now, the definition of good might be different in other people's opinions, but it's like, what does that mean? I think what's morally and ethically right. And again, that could be even canted to one side or the other based off a person's beliefs, based off of histories, past traumas, or I've seen this, or even better, I heard this, right? And we formulate our opinion, and yeah, that's got to be right.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of saying it. I think, you need people to fight for good. And
you have to.
Yeah,
you
all
have
the
to.
time, yeah.
And it's not going to end. It's not going to end. We do what we can to mitigate. It's not going to end. There will always be evil on this earth. That's it. That was creation. And it will still continue until it's over, period.
Do you remember the first experience of your first deployment, where you saw action for the first time? Was there nerves there? Was it like? It
was the first time I fired my weapon where I would consider it to be whoa, was actually my first deployment. We did a bunch of house entries, but it was more like SWAT style tactics. There was no shooting. It was more arresting. That was we were there to arrest people that were doing, bad things. It was my second deployment. I was in Afghanistan. We did it's like a medical, I think they called it a med cap, is where we would take medical supplies. We would go up the valley, up the mountain to certain villages. We drop off medical supplies, and then we knew usually what happens is the enemy would attack you on the way down. Once you're tired, you're out of things, you're not on your game like day one, right? And then we were coming down, sure enough, we were parked and we were getting our bearings, taking a little rest, and we started getting shot at. And I was up on the turret, I was a machine gunner at the time, and I jumped up and just started spraying into the woods. I'm like, this is awesome. And it wasn't awesome hearing the bullets fly by, don't get me wrong, but it was cool to just put some rounds down, and to be honest, I got to shoot my gun in real world. Not that I hit anything. I hit a couple trees, maybe. I was just spraying where the shots were coming, trying to get some cover fire on it. And then we maneuvered, and then that was it. But that was at the time, that was the biggest thing for me. And that was when I was at SEAL Team 2. But when I went over to our Tier 1 unit, it was combat, bam, 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 bam. Every other night, every third night, every night, depending on the stent, we were getting shot at and we were putting rounds down range. all the time.
What's the process of going from team 2 to a tier 1 team?
So you got to do, usually you have to do like 2 deployments. So each like workup and deployments around like, I mean, again, I'm speaking from past, I don't know what it is right now, is about 18 months. So a couple years in the teams, getting more experience, and then you have to submit a package. You have to show what you've done, who you're with. You submit that. Then you have to get accepted, and then you go in with your dress uniform and you have to do a board. And you've got all these guys that are at the command and they're just asking you all these questions and testing out your personality. And then there's a sheet of all the names of possible people that are going to come over. And that list goes around to everyone at the command. And if someone has a problem with you, a little note's made. It doesn't mean you can't get in. It's just like, because some people have personal issues or whatever it is, but if it's like, hey, this guy's not a good operator, okay, tell us why. So they're trying to validate everyone that's coming in. And then after that, you get accepted to show up. And then day 1, you have a physical test, a tough one. Some people don't make that. And if you make that, then you start the training, only for more people to get dropped out once you start the training.
This is where my confusion was with the book is S&T. Is that not connected to?
So yeah, that would be the training, the 6 months training to get to our tier 1 unit.
Okay, so this is something I've not really heard that much about.
There's books out about it now and stuff like that, but it's, in my opinion, was way tougher than BUDS.
This is the thing that really interests me, is that we're talking about the elite force. S&T separates the elite to what? The elite of the elite? Like the top 0.1% of people?
Yeah, it's a very small community. Like you've got to go through. So you did all your BUDS and you did your deployments at your regular team, and then you have to submit a new package and you have another 6-month training. And that's where it's like really tough, really operational, and the instructors are no joke. Like they're nitpicky on everything. Just like they want perfection, which you can't ever get, but they weed you out more. And a lot of guys don't want to go because of that very thing right there. They get to a certain point, they don't want to be weeded out anymore, which I get. I mean, I didn't want to be weeded out, but it's like, dude, you gotta at least go for it,
I think there's something really, really fascinating about this idea that, you've passed BUDS, you've done that, you've done deployments, you're SEALs, and then you guys are stood again at the start line. And there's all these people again, like you've stood on the start line once before where there's all these studs and these amazing people, and that was whittled down to, a very small select few. And then that is whittled down once more. Like it's just incredible.
Yeah, yeah.
So the one of the things I thought was interesting was the difference in the trainers or the, what did you call them? The instructors, between BUDS instructors and S&T instructors. The BUDS instructors are there to break you and try and destroy you and break you down. So what is the difference between S&T instructors?
So they do the same thing, but BUDS instructors have not necessarily been over at this tier 1 unit. The instructors at this tier 1 unit have been and deployed with a tier 1 unit. And at that time, we've had wars going on for a couple of years. So now they're all experienced. So they know what they're talking about. They've been there, they've seen the enemy, they've operated in foreign land, in bad guy territory. They know what they're talking about. And you listen to someone that's been there and done that, you know what I mean? So they just, and a lot of it was great pointers, don't do this because of this, like try to, because it's a different take than your basic stuff, your basic stuff. Okay. But every enemy is a little different. This works, this doesn't work as well.
So now what separates a SEAL from a tier 1 SEAL?
Experience. A lot of it's money and gear, the gear that we get, the assets that we have. We have more assets at our fingertips. We get more operations because we're a tier 1 unit, which means we can go at a moment's notice where, our other SEAL counterparts are not. Not that the other SEAL counterparts are not awesome. I mean, we wish that, because we use Army Rangers a lot as like our blocking forces or stuff like that. Like it would be awesome if we could have our SEAL counterparts come over and do that job. I don't understand why that never worked out, but it's just a little bit different, a little bit target set differently, and we focus on different stuff, more smaller unit tactics than other SEAL teams.
What's the characteristics that separate those kind of things?
I'd say aggression. That's probably the biggest word that pops up right now is aggression. It's faster. It's a lot faster. It's a lot faster just because you know your job. You don't need to go, like if you do CQB with a regular SEAL team, a number SEAL team, not that there's, again, anything bad about them whatsoever. We all got to start there. But again, that's where you started. And after a bunch of deployments and more training, you should be at a higher place. So now you've got veterans in the SEAL community coming together where like a regular SEAL team, if I was going to do a house run, there might be talking, hey, I'm going left or whatever, there would be talking. Tier 1, take down a huge compound without saying a word. You just know the flow. You just flow like water. It's amazing. It's so cool.
Quick interruption from this amazing interview with Eddie Penney. I just want to say a massive thank you to our Patreon community. If you guys want exclusive benefits like early access, ad-free content, additional vlogs, behind the scenes, and most importantly, extended cuts of these interviews and the documentaries, go to the Patreon membership down below. Click the link and you can sign up to become a producer. You can join our basic membership where you get most of the access as well. So thank you so much to our Patreon members. And if you want to join, click that link down below. It helps support us do more of these episodes. Let's dive back into the video.
When you said one of your expertise or one of your specialties that you just had naturally, like as a natural gift, is you could just walk into a room or burst into a room and you knew exactly what to do instinctively. You could assess the situation.
I could process very fast.
Yeah. What does that look like? And have you carried that over into business, into life, into other factors?
Yeah, I believe so. Not that I don't make mistakes, and plenty of them. But yeah, I'm good at processing what's going on. I think my wife might be better at that than I am, like processing and reading the room. But when we're talking about CQB overseas is when that door blasts, when that blows open and you're walking into the breach and there's debris flying around, there's clouds of smoke, there's a ringing of the noise, and you come in, you don't know what you're getting into that room or whatever. How big the room is, you don't know. Is there going to be a bunch of people with guns ready to shoot you? Or is it going to be a mother and her children? You don't know at all times. Sometimes you do know, but sometimes you don't. And you got to process all those things in your mind. Cops got to do it all the time. They go serve a warrant. They don't know what's behind door number 1. They got to process that stuff. I think that's overlooked a lot of times. We shame cops for doing this or doing that, but dude, okay, open the door and tell me how fast you can process everything. How many doors, how many windows, how many people, what are they holding? What are they carrying? All the things. That's a lot to ask a person.
To what level could you process it? Like, was it instinct, you just knew what to do? Or if I took you out afterwards, would you be able to write down how many doors there were?
I would say it's more instinct on processing good and bad, what threats there were, is processing threats and where to go for my next position. It was like water. I don't know why, it's just something I got. And I say this humbly, by the way.
No. I appreciate it. I think everyone, I think if people want to get more details of this, they've got to read the book. Like they can see why I'm saying this. Like there's details to this that would explain it, and they can form their own opinion if they want to. The SERE School stuff, the story of being locked in the box, some of those lessons there about them trying to mentally break you down, I think could really show us the top level of like where people's minds can, like what we can achieve or what we can do, or how we can, how powerful this can be and how it can be used against you as well. Could you explain what that is? So what does the acronym stand for, SERE?
So SERE, oh man, it's been so long. I think it's like survive, escape, resist, evacuate. I don't know, but something like that, like escape, and people are gonna be like, dude, it's this. And I'm drawing a blank on it. Now I gotta like look it up. But anyways, it's like if you were captured is getting away.
Yeah.
Right? There's like survive, escape, resist. what is that last one? I don't know. But it's getting away, like try to find any opportunity to get away from your captors, right? So it's like not a good place to be. So what happened, and again, this changes as well. Our initial thing was they put us in a box for, I think it was like 30 hours. And like you couldn't put your feet straight, you couldn't stand up, and you like it wasn't that wide, and the only thing in there was a coffee can as your toilet. Like thank God it was a bigger one. So a bigger like coffee can to go number 1 or number 2. And there's just your buddies are next to you. There's just these rows of these boxes. But dude, that sucked. And I think the only reason that I don't like being in confined spaces, but I think the fact that I knew that I could break out of there if I had to was like my saving grace. But yeah, just like you just sit there and they like pull you out at certain times and they interrogate you and you got to like hold your pants while they can slap you, but you can't raise your hand or they'll kick you out. And they video everything, much like we're doing right now. They'll video everything so you can learn your tells, because they give you the story before you go in. Like, here was your operation. Here's what you know. Okay, let's go. So they obviously know it because they're the ones that gave it to you, and they just try to pinpoint holes of like, you can say this because this is part of this, or you can't say this stuff. Why'd you just do this? Why'd you down out your guys? Why didn't you? And you just kind of, it's kind of like reverse training almost. Like usually you would go to classes. Okay, now let's do the main event. This is like, all right, here's the main event. Okay, let's critique or hotwash everything that you did or did not do. Wow.
Okay. And then running through simulations and role playing of missions. Like, I don't know if I'm a bit dyslexic. So, well, I'm dyslexic. So when, not a bit, I am.
Love your ownership.
Yeah. So when I was reading the book, there was, I don't know if it was written this way on purpose, but you explain a mission where I think you go onto a boat and you burst onto a boat, and then there's the enemy and you have to figure out who's the enemy and all this kind of stuff. And you just talk about this, but I think it's revealed afterwards that it was a training exercise. Yeah. Is it written like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
cool.
So that was actually Keith's idea.
Yeah.
Like Keith Wood.
Loved it. I loved it.
Yeah. It was like, dude, let's make it. And we actually submitted, because we had to submit the whole writing to DOD for approval, just because of the unit I was at. And I'm like, they are so taking this out. And they didn't. We were both surprised. I thought they were, but they didn't.
And so is that how real they felt? Because obviously I read that like
it's like that, especially because we were doing a cruise ship. That's what that training was.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't know, especially there when you've got like ballrooms and multiple different sized rooms. I mean, talk about, you open a door, you think it's a small room, and it turns into being this huge ballroom with all these tables with hundreds of people. Okay, cool. Figure it out. What? You got to process that stuff. Who's bad, who's not. And that's why you do the training.
And that preparation was good, like a good simulation of what you was actually getting yourself in for. Little did you know, but was it?
Yeah. I mean, that's what you could be up against. I mean, that's what, like, one of the main reasons why SEAL team was developed was to deal with hostage rescues on a cruise ship. That was like one of the main reasons. So we would train for it.
How does it separate the elite top 0.1%? Like, how is the S&T or Team 6, like, what is it? What are you separating? Because obviously you can't, it's not about running faster or, I could be wrong, but I'm thinking it's not about running faster or more push-ups or more pull-ups or anything like that. There's something else that they're looking for at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to your mind. I mean, willing and good at working as a team. I mean, at that point, mission's got to be number one, which is why, the family life usually kind of crumbles. But yeah, it's got to be your priority. It has to be a priority when you're at that level. And it was for a lot of guys, especially when you know that your next deployment is in a combat zone and you make it back alive and you know that you're going to be going again, as long as the way the op tempo was going on and with what the events were at the time. But I think just, dude, I keep just that aggression. Like, you just take it to the enemy hard and fast and as smartly as we possibly could. It was just a different dynamic.
Where's your ego at that point? You get accepted to tier 1.
Oh, through this roof. through the roof. It was huge. It was huge. I thought nothing could touch me. I thought that I could do no wrong, which is a lie. I could do no wrong, and you know, I made it to where I wanted to be. But then once you get there, you're like, okay, now there's other levels. Like I want to be a team leader. I want to be a breacher. I want to be a squadron breacher. I want to be, you know, command master breacher. There was a lot of things that just like you could keep layering on. I wanted to go to this school, that school, learn this, whatever. It didn't stop, and it was awesome because you're just like. They're just dumping all this training, which isn't cheap, into you. And you learn a lot about being a pretty darn good weapon. You know what I mean? But yeah, it wasn't good at the home life. But I did. My ego was big. It was for sure big, especially when I went to our tier 1 unit.
Just to wrap this up, the tier 1 portion is, you walk into that room for the first time with all the other guys. What's it? There was a description of the room. I can't remember how it was, but there's all these like almost like trophies around, and there's this like almost like I'm guessing like a culture of that particular team.
Yeah.
What does that look like?
There'd be like, I mean, there was like a AK-47 chandelier with like lights on it, like working, and it's just surrounded by AK-47s with the magazines like touching in the middle. We've got like certain high profile ops that were on the news. Like we've got parts of that as like all legal up there as our trophies. Like it could be boots or, you know, a bandana or something like that. But from all these like different eras of operations, like back since Vietnam. So it's like a museum. It was like a museum. That's probably the best way to put it. It was like a museum of all these things that you've always wanted to do in all these different parts of the world on different operations. It was awesome. It was so cool to see. It was like, and now you're a part of it to do more missions.
How many people would be active in that room, like actually on
like actual operators?
Yeah, at that time, yeah.
I don't know the numbers. I mean, a few dozen.
Oh, so it's quite small though.
It's quite small. I mean, but our support is quite huge.
Yeah,
it's big. Our support is very big. But I don't know that's so weird. I never really got the numbers on that stuff. Like I never really cared. Just like I was there. Thank you.
So to be this good at something, the question always comes up is, can you have that balance? Like, do you believe that you could have operated at that level? You could have been, you know, tier 1 and also had family balance. Like, is that possible? Did you see anyone do that?
I would say there's not many, but I believe that there was, not that they didn't struggle. I mean, they would have to, there's just no way I don't see you not struggling. But our divorce rate is like 90%. That's 90% divorce rate. That's very high. But there was very few, I guess 10%, that made it through and not unscathed, I'm sure. But I mean, it's rough, dude. I mean, you do your train up and then you're gone for a few months with more baggage and you bring it home. And then it's not like they tell you, hey, there's a therapy. There wasn't really any therapies that I knew of to do. You know, I think it's different now now that we have all that Hotwash, right? We have all the stuff that we know now. We didn't know it at the time, I don't think.
You want to do breaching, which is right at the front of all of this. So you've said
Toms, bro.
Toms, yeah.
Terrified of missing stuff.
Terrified of missing stuff. What was the first breach you ever did? What was that like? What was the adrenaline like, you know, bursting through a wall?
It was awesome. My first breach was, I was not a breacher. I was a secondary breacher, and I had like some wall charges or some door charges that I would carry on my sheath on my leg. And I found a locked door and I came over the radio. I'm like, I'm breaching, and we made sure everyone stayed their spot. And I breached it and I opened up, it was in a closet. I was like, dang it, man. Like I was hoping like there would be like all this stuff, but it was just like, it was not a big room, but that was my first breach. But then like after that, it would be, breached a lot of doors, a lot of gates, a lot of walls. Every deployment we were, breaching multiple times. A few times a week probably.
And you were training on deployment to get bigger, stronger, and one of those reasons was so when you got into these confined spaces that you could throw people around?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to get handsy. I mean, sometimes, you know, it's not, you got to drop the guns, especially if you're possibly transitioning or you can't use your gun or something like that. You need to learn. I mean, my first op going into a house, came into a room and this dude ran at me with man jammies and he had no gun. And first thing I did was pick him up and throw him on the couch. There was like a couch laying right here. So that was my first op. I threw down my gun and picked him up and put him down. So yeah, I remember, and I always remember there was guys, I think it was an officer. It's always the officers. They're like, yeah, you don't want to be super big because there's mountains and you got to be like light on your feet. That is the dumbest advice I've ever heard in my life. That's not true. Having more strength and power in the houses was definitely more beneficial than being a smaller guy. Not that, in climbing up a ship, a smaller guy would definitely outdo me. You know, it took me longer, more energy for me, where they would be zip, 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 zip right up and climb up on a ship. You know, it's just, you got to have different guys for different things. But going into the house, breaching stuff, having, like, if a breach didn't work and you had to like rip something out, I mean, it helps to be a little bit stronger. But that, of course, fed the ego, right? Who doesn't like to blow a hole into something?
How far did you go with it? Because when you were talking about hand-to-hand combat or getting very close to it, I think when you write about that, you was almost choosing to do some of those things, like choosing to go a little bit more closer, or it was more of maybe a preference is a better word for it. What is that the case, that you was, you know, wanting to get more action, like turn the level up a little bit?
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair to say. I mean, you take somebody out with your long gun. It's like, okay, what about my pistol? Okay, and then you like, okay, I want to use maybe a machine gun in this next. You don't. Not that we did that. I'm just saying that's where your mind would go to. Is like, okay, I've done this, right? Check. Okay, I want to do another check. And I remember, like, all right, I wanted to do a grenade, a breach, stuff like that. Yeah, it happened. I talk about it because it's the truth. It's not like I'm 100% proud of like, okay, cool, how can I kill somebody, a bad guy today? It's just, that's where my mind at that time, that's where I went. That was the truth.
It's just interesting to me, like, we're talking about this transformation, like, that you've had, but at one point there was a lot of anger towards this situation that was going on, or the information that you had on these guys. Like, there was a lot of like wanting to ensure that they were gone. Like, what was the extent of how far you would take that? Like I said I think it was a Sean Ryan podcast, you were very visceral about the description of how good killing felt.
I think you're talking about are you talking about the dudes that were like using ballistics on the guy? Is that what you're? I
mean, specifically, that's one of the situations you said you spoke about. Yeah, like
yeah, that amped me up for sure. I think that was when I took out a guy, and for some reason it just sat wrong with me. I don't know why, because the guy had an AK, reaching for an AK, and I took the shot. There was just something that hit me weird, and maybe it was to lead me to I don't know. But I got back and I told our intel guys, like, hey, dude, like, if you find anything on this, like, can you let me know? Because we obviously take, you know, stuff that's important that could help us get more bad guys. And he came over a little bit later and he said, hey, let me show you something. So he took me to his computer and he pulled it up, and the guy that I shot it was a past, you know, video of, he had all these truck drivers, civilian truck drivers, staked on the side of a highway, and he was doing ballistic tests on them, stabbing them, shooting them. And I saw another human doing that, of just like, they were like laughing, like the guy that was holding the video camera, they were all laughing, and like it was like they weren't like, it wasn't a human. You know what I mean? And I saw that, and I was like, there was another switch. And I was like, yeah, there will be no remorse. It will be like, you're getting, not that I wasn't giving it all. It just like the dial just went up a little bit, like went up to the red. But yeah, yeah, seeing that stuff, man. And someone would be like, well, seeing the stuff that you did, and they'd be right. They'd be right. But in my mind at that time, seeing that stuff to an innocent human, just like the guy clacking himself off and killing his children, right? Like those things are just mind-boggling to me.
It paints a picture of like all these things that your mind must have been going through. Like it's a completely different world.
Because it's not natural.
It's not natural.
It's not like I was in high school. Hey guys, here's how you shoot somebody. Oh, thanks. Thanks for teaching me.
I think that's the thing is then you have to return to the normal world. And was there a moment for you when you came back maybe from a certain deployment where you were like, I don't know, going to the store. I think there's a story of you driving a car as if you were still there. But is there anything that stood out where it's like, that could sort of explain to the audience of what that was like, this almost like the new normal,
Yeah, like irritability would be the big one. Just irritable about everything and like quick to get angry about certain things. Like just little things would set me off, like commercials being too long or somebody cut me off in traffic or just taking out the trash, like because I didn't want to, or I didn't realize the day, or I forgot something, or something broke in the house and I had to go fix it, or call someone to fix it. Like little things like that would just like take me out. Like it sounds ridiculous. Like I can go overseas and do all this stuff, but I come back to, you say, the normal life, like normalcy, and I can't be normal. There wasn't a turn off. There wasn't an off switch. I didn't know how to cope with it well. I mean, I could cope with it. I didn't like go around on a shooting spree or something like that, but I didn't know how to cope with it, especially with the ones that are closest to me. And that has been a process. Is like trying to deal with all that stuff. And I can see it, in other veterans, and we try to go do these other things, and it's a Band-Aid. You got to cut out the root. If you don't, it's coming back. It's coming back. You've got to get to the root of it all. And what's so weird, a lot of these things go right back to your childhood. That's what's so crazy about it. Not that the traumas that you experience overseas don't add to it, but it goes a little bit deeper. It just gets flared up when you start doing these things.
Was there a certain deployment that was hardest to come back from?
For sure. The one where I lost my buddy Louie was the hardest one. I wrote about that, and I talk about this on every podcast, but this is like the biggest like survivor's guilt. I'm sure you've heard of that, survivor's guilt. It for sure was one of the biggest things, where I told him I was acting team leader because my team leader was sick that night. So I acting team leader, and we weren't primary assault, we were secondary. So they would take care of the breach and all that stuff, and then we'd filter in behind them. We would rotate that every night. And we were doing a call out. We were calling the bad guys out because they were using the suicide vest. This is where the guy blew up his family. This happened a week before. So, and we lost two of our guys that night. So we were very more cautious. And we were trying to get all the women and the children to come out so we didn't have another episode of what just happened. And there was just mass confusion, same cell, same bad guy cell. And there's just mad confusion. And I came over and I called Louie, who's our EOD guy, explosive ordnance disposal. So he's like, can do all the diffusing of the bombs. And like, he just knows how to, that's his job, is take it over here and we'll deal with it after we secure the target, all that stuff. So he called him over. It's like, hey dude, I think they need your help. Or like, let's move up to the front door so we can help. So he moved up to this huge pillar, and it's probably like only a few yards away from the main entry, but it's around this huge pillar, and it's holding these, and there's another pillar next to him a few feet down, and it's holding this big overhang that's like 2 or 3 feet of concrete. It was like a porch, right? And he's standing behind it, and I'm starting to see it. And again, here's our Tom's disease, right? Terrified of missing stuff. And I move up to him because there's all this chaos. I'm trying to help out. And there was like 4 or 5 guys on the other side of the door. And I'm holding on to Louie's shoulder because I'm on the back side of him, like catty corner to the door. And I just like see all the people, and I'm like, man. And like, I know like from training and stuff, like you don't want to be all bunched up because someone chucks out a grenade or something. It can take out a lot of people instead of injuring one. So I was like, for some reason at that moment, it was like a loud, so loud. It was like my body was overtaken leave, get away, go back to the wall that you just came back from. And for the first time, I was removing myself from the action, still engaged. So I was like, hey buddy, I'm going to head back to around the outside wall. You good? And he goes, I got this. All right, bro, I love you. And he goes, I love you too. And I remember seeing, I always say this because I see it still, is the sweat dripping down the back of his neck, because it was Iraq in the middle of the summer. And I rapped, and it was like, soon as I went out the front gate and I rapped this wall that was like a 4-foot high wall, boom, the house explodes. I mean, huge. Mass chaos, mass chaos. Like I think I didn't get anything, but like a brick hit me in the back of the head, kind of knocked me forward. And I'm like, what the heck? And the only thing I'm thinking about is Louis. Like I just left him. So I go back into the courtyard and like I go walk in and I feel this like tug on my foot. And I look down and I think I used my laser and I shined. It was our dog was trapped under all this rubble and debris. And all that was out was his head. And he obviously grabbed the only thing, which was my foot. So I like ripped my foot out from his mouth, which did tear some teeth, but he got titanium ones after that, which is pretty cool. And so I went up there and all those guys were on the side were like flung everywhere. There was like mad screaming. We had one guy had double femur fracture. I mean, bad stuff. Dude's knees were blown out. And I went straight to where Louis was and he wasn't there. But that overhang that was there is like kind of shifted. So I'm like trying to find a way to get under this thing. So I'm like, I know he's under it. And I see one of my other guys that didn't get nailed by the explosion. He's like half under. And so I'm like, dude, are you good? And he's like, yeah, I'm trying to get Louis out. And so I like put my thing down, because if there's any bad guys, they're done. Because it was a huge explosion. And I reach in next to this, I got this other guy and we're both in there. We're trying to reach him out. And I remember grabbing Louis' like calf and I'm like trying to pull him out. And his like body was like jello. It was like there was no bone structure. So what happened was, I believe what happened was that overhang shifted and just like crushed him. Like there was no bone, just shattered, just instant death from what we were told. And we had to bring one of our PJs, our paramedics, our like guys from the Air Force, their counterpart, who are awesome. And they had to use this, I knew the name in the book. I don't know what it is, but it's like this pneumatic system and it like lifts up these heavy things and then we could like pull them back out. So that, like, if I always think like, man, if I didn't come over comms and tell them to go up there, what would have happened? And then, okay, cool, would I have gone up there? And then why did I hear this voice of leave, which I'd never heard, never done, because I like to be in the action. What was that? And at the time I wasn't a man of faith and I wasn't following the Lord at all. That made me do that. It's just always like, and I just would play that on repeat. And then when I started with like walking with the Lord, I'm like, why did I hear that and he didn't? You know, a lot of concern and questions.
You get home from that deployment, what's that like?
Brutal, because we lost 3 dudes, which is monumental. It was brutal. A lot of drinking, a lot of processing, trying to process, more irritability, more anger. At least that's what it was for me. I can't speak for everyone, but similar, you know?
I'm not too sure if this is the same point, but in terms of your career, like what was the darkest moment in your career and what was the thing that got you through it specifically in that moment?
It's so selfish to say, but it's the truth. The darkest moment is when I got custody of my children. One, I didn't know what I was doing. That's not a good feeling. The fear of the unknown is just, it is real. And I was leaving what I was comfortable with, all my guys. And I knew that they were going to go downrange and I wasn't. And that's so selfish to say. It's not now. Obviously, I don't feel that same way now. That was a blessing. That was a blessing. But for me, that was my darkest moment.
But I'm glad you're able to say it, because it's really interesting that you was fighting for that inevitable. whilst, you know, the kids were obviously in a situation where it wasn't great for them at the time, and you're fighting for that, you're making sure that they're in a good situation, but was you aware that you were leading yourself down this path?
That's a good question, buddy. I don't know if I've ever been asked that. I don't think I did know. I don't think I did know. I think I knew that I didn't know what was going on. Are you saying when I got custody of my children?
Yeah.
I didn't know how much I was relying on pills to go to sleep, and I didn't realize how much I was looking to wine or alcohol to numb and suppress and just to get through things. Yeah, I didn't realize it. I didn't realize it until I realized it, which was years later. A lot of years. But at the time, I didn't know. I thought I had to, like, I'll just figure it out, you know? I can still go work out, right? I can still do this stuff. But I didn't realize how bad I was. Nah, I didn't know.
Your first reach was to request to go on deployment, or I think you asked your lawyer, like, can I do one more?
That's how I was into me. Yeah, like the kids, so when they went on deployment, when they told me to stay back and take care of my kids or learn how to be a father, a good buddy of mine, Adam Brown, passed on that deployment. And he actually has a book, Fearless, which is a great read. Great, phenomenal read, great man. And I was with that guy. I was with Adam for quite some time at Team 2, and we went over to our S&T training together. We were in the same team, and we went up to our units together as well. Great, phenomenal human. And so he died. He passed on that deployment when I was back with my kids. So the next rotation, my kids got out of school, and a week later, we were slated to go back overseas. So I asked my lawyer, is this legal? And she's like, yeah, if they're with their mom, you're good to go. I was like, okay, cool. So I asked my command, hey, am I good to like jump back into training, train up and deploy with you guys, and at least do like a half deployment? Because I had to be back for my kids. And they're like, yeah, sure. So awesome. So at that time, my good buddies were like, dude, jump in with us. So I'm like, dude, I gotta like with another troop. And so I went back with my old guys, my old team. But just like I'll breach if you want me to breach, but just I'll just be a shooter. I'm there to do whatever you need me to do. I'll carry heavy things. There we go. And so I got to go on deployment with them, and then got to go back at it. And for another, I think it was like 45 days, 60 days, something like that. I got to do a little mini deployment. And then I was slated to come back in 3 days, and then we were supposed to go out that night, and we didn't because of weather. So that is the night where I wrote about as Extortion 17, is our helicopter went down, and I believe it was like 32 people died that night. I think it's 32. I could be off on that by 1 or 2, but it was a lot of people, and a lot of them were my good buddies, like best buddies that I trained with, had barbecues with, drank with, worked out with, gone. So that was a hard one. And the worst part is you could see we had drones above that could see the crash site, and we wanted to go so bad. We were told to stand down. But once the dust and the smoke settled, you could see, because like what thermal imagery does is it's white. Like the setting we had was white. And if it's doesn't have a heat signature, it's black. And you could see their white bodies slowly turn gray and then turn to black. And you could just see the life leaving them. And that was a hard one to watch, because it wasn't just like a body. There was like bodies just spilled out the back of this helicopter. And you were just, excuse me, you were just watching it on TV.
Was that hard to bow out after that then? Like, is that something that, like, what was the community like at the time, like the SEAL community?
I think for a lot of people, and I don't think a lot of people admit it, and some will, I think it was a good humility check. It's like, you're not a superhero. You're flesh. You can go down just like others. You know what I mean? It was one rocket. Again, there's conspiracies and thoughts, what it was, but what we have, it was an RPG, cheaply made rocket, It took out this multi-million-dollar helicopter with a lot of stellar performers and human beings, fathers, brothers, and sons. And it took them out. It took them out. Just like that. And then after that started a bunch of memorial services. So since I was coming back anyways, I came back with, it took 2 C-17s, which is a very huge military aircraft. It took 2 of those with all the caskets, and we brought them back home. And one of the families, Jason Workman's family, I haven't talked about this in a while, asked me to come back with them, and I did. And I was honored to do that. And I remember always laying by his casket. I knew which one his was. They could make out which one he was because of his tattoos and stuff. So I laid back and stayed with his body for a couple weeks. And the reason why it was a couple weeks is because there were so many funerals going around that we had to get buses and aircraft and go to all these memorial services. But I was with Jason in Utah and his family for a couple weeks. And that was tough. That was tough because Jason had a son that was the same age as my son. So you can tell it's been a while that I've talked about this one, but that's all right. But just that whole process, you don't think about those things because we were always invincible. We're always getting the bad guys. But that was a reality check, man. And seeing the aftermath of that, of the widows and the moms and dads that no longer had their son, and their, daughters and sons no longer had their father. That was rough to see, man. It was rough to do. And I think at that moment, there was a part of me that wanted to go out and take it to the enemy. And there was a part of me that needed to die to myself and be there for my family. And yeah, man, that was a rough one to see. Just to see what that looked like. I remember getting back to Dover, Delaware, where we flew all the bodies, and all the family was there waiting for us. All of them, like they were in their dress, and the kids were there, and just parents were giving kids like coloring books to just not to know what was going on. That's a memory you can't forget. That was tough. That was so tough to see. That was tough. How do you deal with it? I would drink. Drink during the night, work out during the day. That was my coping. That was it. And everyone had their own. Some won't tell you what that was, but that's what mine was.
We said today in the car about, for most of your life, if men would open up to you, if they tell you, the things they've struggled with or the pain that they're going through, you'd almost be like, keep that weakness away from me. I don't want to hear it. You know, a lot of macho-ness, a lot of bravado, a lot of like, we just, we're men, we get through this. And that your opinion shifted on that now, like.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, I realized that the more things, which I did, would keep in. I didn't want to tell anyone that I had a porn addiction. I didn't want to tell anyone that I relied on alcohol. I didn't want to tell people that I needed to down some Mucinex to get knocked out so I could sleep and it would give me awesome dreams. I didn't want to tell people that you see me as this, but I'm very irritable and quick to anger with my children. I didn't want to show people that. I didn't want to tell people that. And then I remember I heard a dude come out and say this, and it was an older guy, wasn't even in the military, that he struggled with these things. I was like, I'm not alone. And it was just like eye-opening, and like we keep these things to ourselves. And we think we're protecting ourselves, but actually what we're doing is we're sabotaging ourselves. is we've got to bring that darkness out, and you got to deal with it. We as tough dudes, especially in my spec ops community, being tough dudes, right? Because we're tough dudes, but we're not when it comes with dealing with this stuff. And that's like, that's a man, is dealing with that stuff, is dealing with those things of like, I've got some stuff I need to deal with. And one of those things is like vomiting, hey, I need help over here. And that a lot of guys won't do it. They struggle with it. But once they do it, or if they choose, because it's a choice, to talk about these things and deal with it, whatever that might be, there is huge relief, and the burden is removed. And for me, that was like where my start, like my walk with Jesus is like, okay, wait a second, you're a lot realer than I thought. And oh my gosh, your word's true. Oh my gosh, like, okay, the Holy Spirit is real, and I can't ask for your help, and you'll show me. Now, what I want you to show me and how you show me are two different things. But nonetheless, you take me on this path, this journey, and start removing these bondages and addictions to where I don't need alcohol anymore. I don't need pills anymore. I need you. I need to pray to you, and you'll show me.
Yeah, can you describe the moment when you felt the weight lift, being unburdened by this? Because I think a lot of the guys who watch this are carrying burdens. I think people who are searching for the help are carrying those burdens, and it's impacting their life, and they know it. I think a lot of the guys have some awareness, but I don't think they understand the reward speaking about those burdens.
Yeah, they don't. But they, at least for me, was like, I can't say this because I'm gonna look weak. Yeah. I'm not gonna be, or I would think, these are the lies. I'm not gonna be what you think I am. And that's a problem, is I shouldn't really care what another person thinks about me, because they're all gonna have different opinions based off of their opinions, based off of what they were called or talked to, or what traumas they dealt with. I need to care about what he says about me. I got to go to truth. And truth isn't what that person says or what that person thinks. It's what he says. It's what he thinks.
I know it's worth it. Like, I know it is, of course, you know it's worth it. But to these guys who are on the other side of it, fearing, outing themselves for these addictions that they have, or these burdens that they carry, how do you convince them?
I wouldn't say it's not convincing. It's just like, we gotta seek that truth. And that truth is with the Lord. Is, okay, what does the Lord say about that? Because here's an example. I tell myself I need to cope because I've had a stressful day, or I don't know what to do anymore because I can't operate, so I go to booze. And I can't sleep so I need pills. And I need satisfaction, or something to keep my mind off of the things that are playing. So I'm going to run to the internet and self-gratify there, or whatever it may be, right? I have all these excuses. I'm believing all this BS is really what it's coming down to. Because that's what the world's telling me. That's what, if I turn on Netflix or Hulu or go watch a movie, that's what it's telling me. Then I won't do movies or TV. I'll turn on my radio instead. The radio and the songs and the music is telling me the same exact thing. Everything's telling me these things, the billboards, the commercials, all of it's saying, here's how you deal with it. Rough day, go drink. Rough day, go smoke this. Rough day, you want to deal with your traumas? Take this pill. Want to lose weight? Take this drug. Is that dealing with the situation or the problem? No, you eat like crap and you need to go work out. But we want to Band-Aid everything. We want the easy one. We're a culture of McDonald's drive-through. I want it right now. I want it easy, and I want it yesterday. That's not how this works. And if people are afraid to put their foot forward and say, I don't want to have this issue anymore. I don't want to be tied down to this bondage anymore. I don't have to rely on this. Wouldn't it be great just be like, hey, like, for example, when I was drinking, there was times I remember drinking, I didn't want to drink. I'd be like, wouldn't this be great if I just didn't feel like I needed to drink because it was socially acceptable and I felt like that's how I had to deal with things. Like if I had a mindset like that to where I wouldn't need it, and that's what happened but it came once I surrendered it all, admitting I can't do this alone. And I remember I was in this garage right here working out. And I didn't know this at the time. My wife was in the closet praying, which she's been doing for, I don't know how long. I didn't know anything about this at the time. She was doing this behind my back. Darn her. Thought we were supposed to keep it all in the open. But she was praying for me. And I remember that we'll just go here is we went, it was a Monday. I remember it was a Monday because on Sunday we went to church. And I remember us sitting next to each other, but we had like an argument, and it was probably because I was drinking. And she was on this chair and I was on this chair, but she was like on her side of her chair and I was on my side of my chair. And so there's like this well-placed gap, don't touch me, right? I'm irritated with you. And I remember I took a picture and I posted about it. And I remember because I knew better. It was like I should, instead of like keeping that distance, what I should have done if I was more of a man, I should have came in and tried to bridge that gap. It's like, hey babe, I'm sorry, or whatever it was, and tried to build it together and not to keep that divide. But I posted about that. And I remember I was driving to jiu-jitsu at the time, and my mom called me and she was like, I can't believe you posted that about your wife. And it wasn't like shame on her. It was actually calling myself out. I was like, I should have done something differently. And I was fired up. And then I go into jiu-jitsu and I get rolled around, probably get tapped out a couple times. And I get back in my car and I have to go to a counseling appointment out of all places. Cause I like had to go do talk therapy and EMDR and all these other things to, not brain spotting. It's, there's another name for it. But my mom, I called my mom back to finish the conversation. And I was like, don't tell me. Because I remember she said, my friends reached out to me and they couldn't believe. And I'm like, I don't care about your friends, what they think about, or what they think they know about my life or my marriage. Which I did put it out there, but it was really stating like, hey, I should do better here, but I'm not, and I'm choosing not to, enough to where I was like posting about it. And I was fired up because I just got done getting wrapped up by some other dude and then going to this counseling session, which was really the real jiu-jitsu in my opinion, because I had to deal with my feelings, I had to deal with my thoughts and my emotions, which I wasn't good at. And I talk about this all the time. And I talk about it in the book, I believe, as well. I'm not good at it. I can take care of bad guys in the flesh, but when it comes up here, I sometimes struggle. And especially when it comes with women's emotions of doing what I probably should be doing, but I don't know the correct way. And you just, come into go this way, go that way scenarios, many cross sections. And so I'm explaining this, as I guess I am right now, to my counselor. And this was years ago. And she goes, and she's never said anything like this to me before. This is straight up Holy Spirit. She goes, she's like, you are the angriest man that I've ever met. And I literally said, that makes me very mad. And she, you could tell when she said that, she's like, oh, I probably shouldn't have said that. But I'm like, and I was like, I don't understand. Cause I don't yell. I don't like go around yelling at people and my kids and my wife and all this stuff. She goes, you don't need to yell at anyone to be an angry person. And I'm like, man, I was like, there's some truth to what she's speaking here. And it's just, I like stayed. And I remember one of the thoughts that I had was my drinking. And I came home and I didn't know which way was up. I was like that time where you're so like for me, when I get so irritated, I don't know what I should go do. I got to go do something. So I would go, I'm going to default, I'll go work out. So I went out into my gym and I remember having suicidal thoughts of like, I'm going to go get my gun and I'm just going to shoot my eyeball and just be done with it. And I remember calling a buddy that was with one of our SEAL foundations. And I was like, dude, I need something. I need some more something. And this is like after the book came out. So this is like, so spoiler alert, like we're going into another one. This is kind of like the start of the other one, I believe. Is like, because I didn't have it figured out. I was going through more. There was just something still there that I was struggling with. And I called a buddy. I was like, dude, I need some help. And he's like, all right, I'll get some medical doctors, or we'll try to do some things or some therapies or all these things. And I hung up the phone, and I remember I put it down, and I remember standing in the middle of my gym. And I was like, man, I thought I'd been here. And I was like, dude, I surrender. I can't do this. I remember crying out to God. I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I don't want to have a thought of putting another gun into my face. I don't want this thought. And like just the weirdest thing is like this peace came over me about a minute or two later as I'm like contemplating these thoughts. I'm like, I don't even want the thoughts. To even think the thought was like bad. And I remember I texted my wife. I was like, I want all the alcohol. I don't want to drink anymore. I'm done. I would like to get it all out of the house. And I didn't know this, dude. She, at that very moment, she was praying for me. And she comes through this door. And when I'm at the gym, I'm not expecting her. I'm expecting her to come with guns blazing because she's mad at me or something. She comes out in tears. And she was in the closet praying for this, and we like hug. And she's like, I've been praying for this. I'm like, you've been praying for what? Like, what are you talking about? And she's like, about the drinking and all this stuff. And I'm like, are you cool if I get rid of everything? Like our wine, because we had like wine fridge that I would put my wine in to make sure it's at a good temperature. And she's like, sure. And it's been like now from this recording has been like 2 years and like 9 months. And that is like dealing with it. It wasn't like dealing with it with modern day medicines. I mean, it was therapy, it was all these other people, but I really believe it was a true surrender to the Lord, admitting I cannot do this. I need you. And from that day, all these things started happening.
Just a quick interruption from the video. I want to talk about our paid partnership with BetterHelp. As you guys are aware, I've always been super open about my mental health, anxiety, depression. For a long time, the way I would deal with that is by burying those emotions, working really hard, running hundreds of miles, and burying those feelings deep down inside. That's why over the last 2 years, I have stuck to online therapy. Weekly online therapy, and it's been absolutely incredible. It was a massive weight off my shoulders. I know I'm not the only person who feels like this, but sometimes it can feel like you are, and you can feel super alone in that anxiety, that depression. And then we have to add the mix of social media in there. For somebody like myself, I'm on social media all the time for work, but so many other people look on there and see these highlight reels of people's lives that's just not true reality. All of these things can be super overwhelming. For a lot of people, we decide to keep it to ourselves. We think we can battle through, we can push through. That's why I turned to online therapy, and you can too with BetterHelp. BetterHelp connects you with a credentialed therapist who can help navigate whatever you're going through. It's an online platform, so you can do your sessions from wherever feels comfortable. And if the first therapist isn't a right fit, you can switch at no extra cost. Most people using BetterHelp are looking for support with anxiety, and 69% report improvement after just 6 weeks. Therapy helped me shift my perspective, process things in a way I couldn't do alone, and actually start feeling lighter. If you've been thinking about therapy, this might be the right sign to give it a go. Click the link in the description or go to betterhelp.com/Mulligan Brothers for 10% off your first month of therapy. Let BetterHelp rule your anxiety, so anxiety doesn't rule you. Let's get back to the video. You've mentioned this before, and I think it's something that was not spoken about, is the effects of porn on young men. Like, and I think it's not something that's spoken about. There was there was I saw this study, this neuropsychiatrist, Dr. Valerie Voon of Cambridge University, and they found that brains of habitual pornography users show striking similarities to those individuals addicted to substances like alcohol. And when self-identified porn addicts view explicit images, I'm going to mess this up, ventral striatum, a region linked to the reward and motivation, sparks up. And activities like alcohol do the exact same thing. And there was one more that I thought was, I'm going to mess this one up as well, but I'll say it anyway. Over time, pornography can reduce self-control. Continued exposure to porn doesn't just stimulate the brain, it also rewires it. Dr. William Struthers explains that frequent viewing, especially when paired with masturbation, may weaken the cingulate cortex, the brain region responsible for moral reasoning, impulse control, and ethical decision-making. In essence, repeated users can erode that very part of the brain that governs willpower. And I think, like you've spoken about, the 3 things that you posted about, stomach,
your tongue,
and your dick. Yeah. But like that small thing, like the science shows that it's so detrimental.
For sure. Well, yeah, I mean, it has the power to give life, contract diseases, and just like do some very bad things. I mean, when we're putting it to rape because of an urge, and you said it, self-control is like, I mean, when I would run to those things, I didn't have much self-control at all. Like that in my mind, like, and we can take that. That's like one of the fruits of the spirit is self-control. And that's an amazing thing, is like something comes in your mind. Not that we're going to get thoughts. It's like, okay, what are you going to do with those thoughts? Are you going to take them and making them an action? Or are you going to be like, yeah, I don't think so, get out of here, and like rebuke them and realizing it's a lie and taking it captive to the obedience of what Christ would say, like, hey, we would go this way, not that way, right? Not the world's way. That is an amazing, that is stronger than lifting any amount of weight that I've learned. Is like, I don't need that. I don't need you. No, I remember walking by when I was done with the whole drinking thing. I walked by in my grocery store, and there's the wine section, and there's this like all these rows of wine. And I did a post. I remember doing the video, and I'm like, "You do not own me anymore." And I posted that, and it felt so. It might be something to whatever, but to me in that moment when I was like, "Dude, you're done. You are done. Like, I don't need you anymore. I need him." It was like the most like. Just like acknowledging, like, I can't do this. You can, please remove this from me. And he did. It was just so awesome. And I don't desire it anymore. Like, I just don't. And he did that with porn, and he did that with cussing and certain things. And that's my walk. Just because like, it was what I needed and what I wanted to remove from my life. It might not be on someone's list of things that they want to remove from theirs, but my journey is different than yours. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, but for me, that was very important for those things. It was huge.
The reason I ask is because I think it is really detrimental. Like, I think it's.
Oh yeah, we get to back to the porn thing
specifically. Yeah,
100%. Because I don't want to look at a female and objectify, is that the right word? Objectify them. I don't want to look at that because like we mentioned this before, is I left a trail of crushed, broken women and emotions and use them for certain ones just for a physical thing. But if I look at past relationships, I let them in the dust and gave them wounds and trauma, things that they've got to most likely deal with, which I'm not proud of. Like, that isn't a man, dude. That's a child. That is ridiculous. Dude, I don't know why this is coming up, but there's a reason for it. I had a buddy. He had 2 French bulldogs, and one of the bulldogs, just about every night, and he would videotape this, the dog would get up on the couch and masturbate. This male dog, this little French, I mean, you could picture a French bulldog, little Frenchie, would get up and he would masturbate right there on the couch. And like, for a second, I was like, dude, that's hilarious. Like, that's so funny. And then I was watching him more and I was like, that's how I look when I do it. And it's ridiculous. And I remember seeing that, I was like, and I remember like, that is the most ridiculous thing. Like that hey, stop. That's what I would look like if someone would video or whatever, which I would never want them to, right? I was like, that is ridiculous. And it's so ridiculous. And there's so much more stuff spiritually that goes into that stuff, like that the satanic stuff and evil and just darkness that is just engulfed in that industry and us walking that stuff out. Hey, no. It's ridiculous, dude. Yeah. It is ridiculous. And I remember when I was told that like we shouldn't be doing that, when I went to a Christian retreat, and I remember the first time they said me like, yeah, we shouldn't be watching porn. I was dumbfounded. I was like, what do you mean we shouldn't be? And like, that helps me so I don't like cheat on my wife. That was my thought process. That's not a good thought process. That is a worldly thought process. That is what guys would tell themselves and we joke around with all the time. And it is so off the mark and so wrong. It's ridiculous, but we call that evil good. And we'll call someone that says we shouldn't be doing that, we'll call them evil. That's also biblical. That's where we are in today's society, is we will take evil, call it good, and call good things evil. Somebody that says, no, I protect my children's iPad and phone, and we have certain restrictions, and we won't let them do it, and they can only have it from set hours, from this hour to this hour. A lot of people will call that, oh my gosh, like, why are you so protective over your children? Because they don't need to be seen, because they have a world that's trying to dump all this crap into them, and we're going to call us bad? Dude, we're messed up. We don't got it figured out. It's backwards. It's backwards. Look at media. Look at, again, the TV, music. What we say is acceptable and okay, it shouldn't be acceptable. That is why we're having children that are in 8th grade having sex in the middle of a school, which happens quite often here. And I'm sure in other countries as well, because of certain things, because of parents don't say, yeah, we don't do that here. We're going to protect our children. That's what we're supposed to do. That's what God tries to do with us. Hey, I don't want this for you guys, because what we don't see is there's a spiritual component of getting certain rights to the enemy, which is why we have these bondages, is because we don't walk in obedience. And that's a whole nother, that's a separate thing. And that's a long, can be a long conversation, is if we walk out, because that we'd call it sin, or just not doing the right thing. That puts a divide in between us, and it gives us, gives these addictions and the enemy a foothold to do what it does. And we're like, why does this keep happening? Well, because you keep choosing to do the wrong thing. There's a consequence with it. Period. And that's not something that I made up. That is straight up scripture.
On the back of that, there's something I wanted to cover that, as I was going through the book and the podcast and doing all the research, there was like certain things that would come up again and again. There was actually a list that you made as well that were like rules or guidelines. I thought that it'd be a really good thing to put together, like a rule that men could live by, or young men could live by. I think especially like after reaching like the top of your career, the rock bottom of your career, the rock bottom of your life, going through all those wisdom, like those teachings and lessons, learning the wisdom from it. There was certain things that really stood out. And I don't know whether it's worth me saying to you, could you give us a list of rules that men should live by, or me repeating some of the things that you've said that I think are really strong, but I'd love to just create some kind of guidelines.
I think I'm gonna say something that's probably better than what I know what you're saying, and I agree. Like, it would be nice to be like, and I'm gonna go with a story on this, if that's okay.
Let's go with it. Yeah.
So when I started doing my walk, and I explained some of it to you, and I started following the Lord, like more attacks were coming, and I kind of like, so I was walking my dogs, go figure. I was walking my dogs around the neighborhood, and I was just praying. I was like, you know, because like when and I was praying to God about this, and I was like, you know, when I'm having this conversation like he doesn't know, and I'm like, you know, when I was in the military, like you don't know when I was there, and you know saved me I don't know how many times, I would know my capabilities. I would know what my weapons could do, how many weapons I had, my explosive, how much thickness I could get through a wall. Was it steel? Was it wood? Was it mud? I knew all these capabilities of my arsenal, the grenades, concussion grenades, fragmentation grenades, right? The guys with me, their machine guns, their sniper rifles, the aircraft above me. I knew my capabilities. I also knew the capabilities of my enemy. And we would ask for that. That would be part of like what I would tell you about like our intelligence departments of giving you, here's how many guys we think that they have, because they can never be really specific. We knew about what guns that they probably had, if they had possibly grenades because they've used it in the past. All these things, we would know a good deal. We would know the capabilities. So I was praying to the Lord. I was like, I want to know what capabilities I have. Like, what angels do I have? What am I up against? Because there were certain things that could be popping in and out of my house and my marriage, with children, with work, stuff like that, finances, health. Like, there is a spiritual component in that, regardless of what anyone says or what anyone thinks. That is just like, that is truth. I'm sorry. It's just truth, and I don't make the rules. So I was like, what are the capabilities of my enemy? And what capabilities do I have? And so loud and so clear, all I heard was, I am your capability. It was so profound, and it was another I am statement. It was so like, you come to me. That's it. Like, you come to me. So if I'm struggling with my children, or I'm struggling at business, or I'm struggling with that piece of cake over there, is I go to him. If I'm struggling with drinking, if I'm struggling with the porn, if I'm struggling with my mouth, with my anger, with gossip, with spending on stupid stuff that I don't need anymore, the list goes on, right? We all have our things. He says, I'm your capability. And I know some might be like, that's ridiculous, but it's not. Because from that, he'll tell me what I need to do. He's stop number one. He's stop number one. And that is one thing that I've learned when I've tried to go find all this healing. I try to go get rid of all this pain. I try to fix all these thoughts, all these emotions, all these feelings, all these, I need to find an outlet for, and I could never find it. There was nothing here that I could, until I said, hey, you know what? I surrendered to you because I don't have it figured out. And it's the same thing, just in some different words. He goes, I am your capability. I'm your capability. And I believe him.
It's interesting, you know, as I read the question itself, I thought you'd say something like that. I thought that'd be your answer, you know, after the conversations we've had today.
But you and I, as men, we could totally hash out, make some cool t-shirts, some cool stuff, but it still would be man. And when man comes in, not that we don't do wonderful things, we sometimes miss it. We miss it. We miss it with our doubt, our wrong beliefs, our personal opinions, our fleshly selves, because it will benefit me, and we miss the trueness of it, which is him.
This is a bit of a cliche question I think a lot of people ask, but going back to the start of your career, what would you have told your younger self?
One, I would have told myself to start seeking out the Lord. I don't want this to come across for some where, oh, Eddie's just pushing Jesus. Eddie's just pushing. I'm not pushing Jesus at all. What I am saying that for me, that is the one thing that changed everything. It started to heal stuff that I didn't even know that needed to be healed. So I see the truth in it now, which I never did before. I think I shared with you, I used to make fun of it and would push it off, and that's just a fairy tale. I said all the things. I said them all. And I realized how wrong I was. So if I could just go back, if I would have put that in my life, I know I would have made better decisions. I would have been a better human, and I wouldn't have struggled so much with the areas. Doesn't mean I wouldn't say I wouldn't struggle, but I think it would have been a different It would have been a different journey for sure, but I didn't. And, you know, I have it now, and he's dealing with what, you know, was there. But definitely that, and treating people better. Man, that one struck me. Treating people better and just being more engaged in my family. I missed a lot of time with them, man. A lot of time. Time you can't get back. I thought the job was always more important. I had to be there for my boys, Very rarely did I even think about, like, I need to be there for my family. That job is a job. It's just a job. It goes back to, if you are what you do and what you do is lost, who are you? It's just a job. It's a title that you have put in your mind and made it your belief that this is so important over all this stuff. And it's not true. It's not that those jobs and those accomplishments are not good, but it doesn't ever take family. It doesn't. It's not what we're designed. It's not how we're designed. It's not.
On the, we spoke about in the car briefly about the sharing of the messages, sharing of the stories, and having that sort of feedback that it's helping people. I mean, what was that moment like for you? You know, the first time you had that feedback, and how can people apply a similar kind of thing, like of sharing their experience, of maybe trying to better themselves? I guess the idea of somebody's always watching as well comes into mind as well. You don't have to actually physically go share that message by writing a book or speaking about it. You can do it through like the expression of your life. But what was that moment like where you realized, you know, there's something beyond yourself. You know, there's something beyond yourself at play here.
Yeah, I think the big thing for me was forever. I thought it was me. I really did. I thought it was like by my efforts, by all the things, like I'm in control, right? By my control, I can do all these things. And it wasn't that. Again, going back to Christ, that was it. When I realized it was him doing it through me, which was so cool. When I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're using me. Like, this is phenomenal. And and I got used more as I started walking a more righteous path. As I started getting rid of the crap, as I started like maybe not great music. And I'm not saying that music is bad, but I am saying that certain music, at least for me, and I'm sure that a lot of people would agree with this, certain music is going to change your mindset. If I listen to a heavy metal band or something, I'm probably going to want to be like, oh, let's go crazy. Or if I'm listening to something where it's putting more positive into me, not that there might not be a time for that, right? I started changing all these things, like cleaning up my music, cleaning up the things I watch, cleaning up the people I hang out with, watch the places I go to, the way I speak, all these things. Like, what am I reading? Like, all those things matter. What am I putting in my body? What am I eating, right? All these things matter, and it forms who I am. I started getting rid of a lot of that crap. And I would just listen to the Lord as best as my ability, still mess up, still do, probably will tomorrow, and just clean up my life and try to live a more righteous, not a I'm so righteous, hey, what do you say, Lord? Because I don't got this figured out. Please show me, please show me, please show me. And that's it. And that's what I did. And it was through my actions, just like you picking up the trash at the park, you saw that guy doing it. It's the same thing. People, and not that I'm out there, oh, look at me. It's just guys will come up and they'll say, man, because you lived your life like this, or because you do this, I've seen you through the years. There's something to what you speak on, and there is. That's why I'm like, man, if we could just show and just, you could see it, and it's free, but it will cost you your life. You decide.
I love that note. I think we can end on that. Like I said, we've got a couple of days to explore some more conversations. We've had a few conversations in the car already. So if people are wondering where to find more on it, we'll have links and everything down below on more subjects. And there'll be a documentary with Following You. I always like to try and point the audience in the right direction. I really do recommend the book, but like, sitting here today, is that where you would push people to go visit now?
I would push people more to unafraid.org. So at unafraid.org that's where pretty much everything is. You can get like signed copies of the book. Our Patreon page is on there. So I do calls with guys every month and post stuff. More just like getting better emotionally, mentally, spiritually, physically, and obviously with the Lord. Trying to get better. And then our shop's on there with all our gear, but everything's at unafraid.org.
Perfect. And it will be linked below. And I think I also need to give a big thank you to Sean Ryan as well.
Yeah, right. Love Sean, dude.
You know, a lot of the research, the book's fantastic. That interview was absolutely fantastic as well. I think you guys captured so much in there.
That was a good episode for both of us, man. I think it's episode 43 on the Sean Ryan Show. Yeah, man.
So that will be linked down below. I again, really recommend people for just following up and checking out if you get the time to do it, because it's more just powerful stuff, very powerful stuff.